Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Super Cast Brothers Roster Redux Edition. We are here with our N64 episode of our complete reimagining of the Super Smash Brothers roster. As always, myself, Zantok, am here. We've also got Jonno, our usual co-host, who has only ever missed one episode of the podcast, I think, or was it two? I think it's just been one so far. And
It's just been one.
it's just been one so far. There was almost a second one. It's almost a second one. And then, like the previous two episodes in this series, we have a new guest on. Well, not new. A new guest for this particular special series. They've been on the show before, though. What, 3, 4 times? It's been a number of times. Curbwalker is back. He has been temporarily released from his confines to join us for another episode.
I'm not going back.
You want to bet?
Yes, I bet.
Okay, well, you will.
I would like to see you try.
All right. Well, considering that there's another episode that we have you scheduled for this season, I can guarantee you're going back in the dungeon.
Nah.
Yeah. So you better behave, or there will be a massive snake let loose to come get you.
Roll in the dungeon. Oh boy, I like how we built aligned series.
Hold on.
With their references.
I mean,
No
we
trolls,
all
no massive
know.
snakes.
We all know from the last 2 seasons what episode you're going to be back on for this season. It's no secret. We're finishing out that whole thing. But that's not what we're here for today.
Ice cream party?
Apology cupcakes, actually.
Always.
Yes, it is. It is time for the N64 episode of us remaking the roster for Smash. We started out with the NES, adding 8 characters to that initial roster. We added 8 more to Super Nintendo episode, and now we're here to add an additional 10 characters for Super Smash Bros. 64 for a total of 26 characters.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes. Now, as a brief overview of what we've already added, for you video watchers, you can see the roster as it currently exists up on the screen. For you audio listeners, here's who we got so far. We've got Mario, Bowser, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Link, Ganon, not Ganondorf, but Ganon, Samus, Pit, Little Mac, Takamaru, Yoshi, Kirby, Ness, Marth, Simon Belmont, and Mega Man X. By the end of this episode, there will be 10 more names there, and I fear as we get further and further into the series, I'm going to have to say a lot more names. Oh, God.
What a crew. What a crew.
I mean, it's a solid roster so far. I think there's really only a couple characters that you might say aren't the necessary building blocks, but that's kind of necessary when you're starting out with NES and SNES. What's the word I'm looking for? Limitations? Limitations might be the word I'm looking for. That'll work. All right. Well, before we can reveal our characters, we need to go over what the rules are, what our restrictions are for this episode's newcomers. First of all, as I mentioned, 10 new characters on each of our lists, so which will be narrowing down from a total of 30 max, because we might share a few, down to just 10 across our list. So we'll get some debating, as we always have had to do. From now, we are allowing characters that have been released up to January 31st, 1998. So if they didn't exist by this point, in reality, they cannot be added to Smash because they don't exist yet. Kind of obvious. Can't add a character that hasn't even been created. We'll get some exceptions starting the next episode, because there were characters who were added before their game was released. But that's not today. The only other rule for today is we are continuing with a limited amount of third-party characters. In the previous 2 episodes, we could only add a total of 1 third-party each, but now we can have up to a maximum of 4 third-party characters, so we can each have only 2 on our list. Will we add 2 onto the roster? Don't know. We'll find out.
Could be 1, could be 0, could be 2.
Could be. It
I think
just
that
won't
covers the
be
answers.
more than 2.
Indeed. I do, before we get started, I do think you missed one quick rule.
I did?
Yeah, from the rules, when a god kid reveals who their fairies are, they
What?
and their witnesses shall have their memories wiped.
That is
Okay.
that is fair. That is in the rules.
What in the world?
It is.
I would like to reiterate the fact that I don't know, the game could reveal more characters by the time this episode gets uploaded, because this is being done way in advance. But if Timmy Turner's not in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 as a playable character, what the fuck? You've dropped the ball again, Game Mill. I don't know if there's legal things stopping him, but goddamn, put Timmy in the game. Or at least Jorgen von Strangle. That's honestly my personal pick. Give me Jorgen.
It's going to be Doug Dimmadome.
I mean, honestly, there's a few good options they could choose from that aren't to me. Like, Crocker would actually be an interesting choice.
Also true. Also true.
Indeed. That said, we're not making a roster for Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. I have made one before. I did make a 50-character roster when the second game was rumored. But that's not today. Maybe someday. All right, so...
That's the void.
The void. It's very dark. And
This is where our friend Eric lives. He grew up here.
I thought he was from Canada.
What's the difference?
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Anyway.
Anyways, so yeah, here's our we got rid of the stage graphic. It's now the big black void graphic. Maybe we could have the stage behind the character pictures next time. I might try that. I just wasn't sure with things. Well, I might try it with the presentation next time around. But I don't have that prepared for. I mean, I could, but I haven't tested how it looks, so we're not doing it. Instead, we're gonna reveal our characters one by one, and I'm gonna start. So, for me, on my list, I'm going to start with the character that I think is the single most obvious choice. Like what we did for SNES, where Kirby was like okay, you kind of need to include Kirby. You have to. This time around, that obvious need this fucking character, it's Pikachu. Okay? It's not Jigglypuff seen from above. It's Pikachu! Pokemon?
What?
Not every game explodes into popularity on release. Some take a few years, but Pokemon, if the internet was as big as it is now when Pokemon first came out, it would kill the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon was huge immediately. Pikachu is the face of the franchise. Because the anime was decently released by the point that characters would have been chosen for this. So absolutely going with Pikachu here.
Absolutely. What a controversial first choice.
I don't think so.
Quite a hot take.
I think Pikachu would break the internet indeed in this era, and maybe the Wii era or whatever when the internet took off. It could effectively kill the internet too, though, with 100 people talking about it on game FAQs back then. Everyone's bandwidth would be lost or their cable would give out. So I guess it still is the case. It would be a big cultural milestone, though. I mean, back in the 90s, pretty much right when Pokemon came out, it was a worldwide hit. It was kind of crazy. It was a zeitgeist.
Yeah. If there was a Smash Dojo like site for this hypothetical revisioning, Pikachu would be the first newcomer revealed easily.
Oh, and the site would crash. All those JPEGs that loaded up at once, gone.
Yep.
But yeah, Pikachu is on my list too. May as well get it out of the way. Not to say we're gonna pick Pikachu, but Pikachu deserves to be on the list.
That's true. We may not choose Pikachu, which feels blasphemous to even suggest. But, Curb, who's your first character you want to reveal?
I think we really should just get it out of the way. because I think we all picked Pikachu.
Did we? I mean, if you're saying it, it must be true.
Pika Pika!
Yeah. Now, as I've said in previous episodes, just because the characters on all three of our lists, that doesn't mean they're gonna make the cut. But
Well, it's kind of like. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
It's kind of like Kirby on the previous list. It's kind of a given.
yeah. That said, the next one for me,
Pikachu.
Pikachu again.
yeah, Pikachu again. Here, let me just hide them. Oh, yep, there we go. Pikachu 2. Here they are. It's Pikachu Libre from Pokken Tournament. No, I still am mad that they added Pikachu Libre into that game when you already had the Libre Pokemon.
Pikachu.
But no,
Oh
I'm
my
gonna go
God.
for one that I think might be a different kind of a cell here. I'm gonna go for Seliph from Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War and Thracia 776. I don't think Thracia was released by this point. I don't think it was, but it was definitely, they definitely knew that they were going to be making it, and Seliph is one of the lords in both titles. I went with Seliph over his dad Sigurd, who is more the main character, at least of the first half of Genealogy, because they knew Thracia was going to be a thing. So you get to have the character that's leading both games, and just because this is a bit of future knowledge, but everybody talks about Sigurd. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to throw out Seliph because you guys aren't.
Yeah, and Sigurd, spoiler alert for a 30-plus-year-old game, dies
That's true.
midway through. He gets blown up by a
Oh
meteor.
my.
Magic
Oh.
is everything.
Magic is everything. He's a cool character, and the whole death thing hasn't stopped Sephiroth from being in Smash proper.
That's true.
Uh,
I mean, death doesn't stop Sephiroth, period. That fucker's trying to remake his own timeline right now.
also
Mm.
true. Also true.
I fully believe that theory.
Right. Interesting choice, cool choice. You're right. It was a whole new cell because it's cell if.
Huh?
No, you did not.
I did not, actually.
I'll note that Seliph is an NPC in 3CS776, but still he's important. Okay, my next pick is going to be this individual. We spoke about them during the Super Nintendo episode as well, when their game was kind of a breakout hit, but they didn't make it that time. Maybe they will this time. We'll see how this goes. It's Fox McCloud.
It's not
we-
Fox McSunny.
Series.
It is definitely
No,
not
Dave-
Fox McSunny. No.
David would have chosen him.
Okay, can we not with that here?
Huh?
No.
I'm just referencing our friend.
Yeah, Jonno.
Okay.
Jonno.
Hmm.
But yeah, Fox, we considered him in the last one, but we weren't really sure with SNES Smash limitations that we would have at the time, if it would work well enough, because, he hadn't really stepped outside the R-Wing yet. But hey, by this point, we got Star Fox 64. It could happen now.
We sure do.
All right, Curb, who is
Okay.
next on your side of things?
So I think it's only fair that if it's my number 2 choice, I think it's fair I reveal the ultimate player 2, which would be
Me.
Luigi.
Ah, yes, the scaredy cat of scaredy cats.
Mm-hmm.
Mama.
I was thinking like, you know what, as it's going on, it's expanding on different existing ones, and we do have Mario and Bowser. And looking through a lot of the other options that we had in terms of who else we would add, the most reasonable choice for me is Luigi that I thought so. And that is why I've got Luigi on here.
I actually forgot Luigi wasn't already on the list.
Oh,
It seems like such a given, but also I guess
A
not.
lot of these people do. A lot of like after reviewing the last one, there was a good chunk. I'm like, oh, they're not on yet. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's
Mhm.
it comes from the fact that when you have to try and think about things from like one where Nintendo was at the time with their mindsets, and also just the capabilities of the hardware at the time. Look at Bowser for NES. Can you imagine the NES sprite from Super Mario Brothers working in a fighting game? No, absolutely fucking not. Now, sure, they'd probably make new sprites for everything, but it's just hard to imagine because he wouldn't really have much to really do yet. Similarly to Zelda, Zelda was in the first Zelda game, but is there anything for Zelda to do in Smash yet? No. Things,
Yeah,
Right.
things
that
have
was
to
part of
come
this.
in waves.
That I remember that being part of the discussion when I revealed my list, because like ones that it's like I'll get to it later, but there were like certain ones where it's like at this point they didn't have much to do. So
Yep.
I like if it was like all encompassing, yeah, they'd be on my list. But I'm trying to consider what they were using those characters for at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't fairly do that.
Yeah,
So
and Luigi is one that I
Mhm.
actually made an argument for in the Super Nintendo episode, but there were more unique choices to go for. It's like this is fair.
hmm
Yeah.
But for my third choice, this character. How do I talk about them? Well, first of all, let's just throw them off the board. It's Meta Knight from the Kirby games. I Smash proper waited a bit to add anybody besides Kirby from the Kirby franchise, but I don't think we need to do that here. And when it comes to the Kirby characters, after Kirby, you gotta add Meta Knight and King Day-to-Day. It's just a matter of who first, if not both. I opted not to go for both because we're only adding 10 new characters right now, and I thought we can just do one at a time. And I went for Meta Knight over King Day-to-Day because we've already got a couple of the characters that are, on the heavy side with Bowser and Donkey Kong. In Meta Knight, I'm just like, okay, here we have a low to the ground, fast character with a sword. We've got the sword fighters, but they're all just like, they're people. Meta Knight, a little bit of not exactly human.
It's kind of just like a sphere, really,
Yeah, a sphere with a sword and wings.
and legs and hands. Cool. What a guy.
What a guy.
And a thick Spanish accent too.
What a night. What?
In the Fox cartoon, yes, he's Meta Knight has a Spanish accent.
Wow. Ooh,
Yep.
I need to go back and watch that.
And King Day-to-Day was the Clava Dat Dare Kirby.
Kirby,
Yeah.
it's me.
Yep. Yeah, he was Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, may as well just bring that out of the gate now. Next up on my list is King Dedede. Likewise, I did not have Meta Knight and King Dedede on my list. I opted for King Dedede because I like bringing in a villain choice, and I think he's more of the definitive. Like they're both anti-heroes at this point in Kirby history, though. He's kind of more of like the main boss or antagonist in multiple worlds of Kirbydom, at least leading up into the big eldritch horror that tends to be the final boss in Kirby games.
Yeah, Day-to-Day's the villain when he's brainwashed, or Kirby is confused. Like,
That seems
you
pretty
stole my
often, though.
cake. No, I didn't. I'm gonna beat you up for stealing my cake. I didn't. Oh God.
So DDD Gaslighter confirmed.
No, Kirby's stupid.
I mean, it makes him easy to gaslight still.
Yeah,
No,
and
you are mishearing.
I like his hammer and how he lays down.
What?
Yeah, he can lay down.
What a thing. What a time. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
Like, what was that tangent? Okay. So, here's the thing. Do I break the tie now?
I mean, there's
On
no
this debate?
tie breaking. The debate hasn't happened yet. We're just
Yeah,
debating who we
true.
usually chose.
It is. No, I'm gonna go somewhere else anyway. There is someone that is kind of like, from my experience with Smash from the very beginning was there, so it felt very wrong to not have them on this list. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I need a little Falcon Punch. This was my brother's main went between him and Samus. So I always there was a lot of Captain Falcon in our household.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Captain
But-
Falcon. No, go on.
No, go ahead.
Captain Falcon is an interesting one because much like Fox, he's not typically seen outside of his ship because he's a racing game character. But what's really weird with him is in reality, and there's still conflicting information about this, even with Sakurai revealing some stuff. But Smash started out not as a Nintendo fighter game, but just like using original characters. And the models, or at least one of the models, was kind of retrofitted to become Captain Falcon. But with Smash having a different origin here, that origin for Falcon doesn't exist anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah. That not to say like
What?
Falcon won't be a person, but the reason that he's chosen would be much different this time around.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, so for my fourth pick, let's see here. Where can I jump at this point and still be different in theme? Let's go for. You know what? We haven't really gotten to establish this type of character yet. Smash likes to give us retro picks, but when you start with the NES, obviously there can't be a retro pick, and it doesn't really make sense that a retro pick on SNES either, because I mean it's just one console ago. But I think we can establish that now. And my choice is Balloon Fighter from Balloon Fight. Could go with Game & Watch, could go with the Ice Climbers, could go with Goku from Yu Yuki. But I like Balloon Fighter. I think he would be a very unique take on a character, much like, the reason why the Ice Climbers were eventually added. With his balloons having a very floatiness to him, kind of like an opposite of the eventual. Well, I guess not really eventual because we added Little Mac in the first game, kind of like an opposite of Little Mac.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I've always liked the Balloon Fighter choice, the idea of Balloon Fighter playable in Smash, which I think was kind of canonically something Sakurai had in mind as one of the retro picks that he may have chosen since Melee, and has just kind of been punted off, along with Excite Biker, Mach Rider back in those days. It would be, besides the mechanic absolutely working, as Zantok has shown in on Smashtopia already with his Balloon Fighter moveset. Shout out to the Smashtopia wiki. I like the pick. And it's a good tribute to Iwata as well, being one of the first NES titles he developed. All that to say, I have a retro pick as well, and it is something you mentioned, but it's not Balloon Fighter. It's Mr. Game & Watch. The guy himself, the progenitor of Nintendo gaming. Pretty much for all the reasons he made it in Melee in our world, I would say in this third installment in this fictional universe we're working on, he would be a fine pick for now. And that's that. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely see. It's like Game & Watch is even more so with like when he was the retro pick. Like he feels like the retro pick of retro picks. Like the cream of the crop of it. It's like, oh, that's where like your brain would immediately go to. So that's what I'm thinking seeing this.
I mean, he's the oldest one.
That is true.
Yeah.
True.
Unless you included Walking Ultra Hand or Nintendo's Love Connector, it's the oldest thing you can do. Or Napoleon from
Hanafuda cards.
I knew it was coming. Or the Mini Kangaroo or Discoon. Okay, so there's some.
Well, no, I think Discoon would be younger.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there you go. There's some guys, but Mr. Game and Watch is the Mister of this world, indeed.
Indeed.
Hmm. Okay, so next is mine. Okay, so which one do I want to reveal?
I don't know.
So this one is a bit of an interesting one, and I think it's appropriate to do this because I'm looking at this list a lot. We got a lot of guys, we got a lot of animals and such, and I'm kind of thinking. Also, from what I noticed from the main thing, we only have Samus as the one girl. So there is one that I wanted to bring up from a Fire Emblem game, actually.
Oh.
Despite the fact that I've never actually played any of the games, but in doing my research and going through them, I thought this would be a great addition, and that would be Tiki.
Oh, sweet.
I was going through the list, reading up on them, and I liked a lot of the characters for it because one of the ones that would be felt like the go-to would be I believe it's Celica, because she's one of the main player ones. But kind of what we were mentioning earlier, like we don't want anything too samey, and I was worried about any sort of overlap with any of the other Fire Emblem that may have been picked already, kind of thing. But Tiki really stood out to me, and I know that Tiki is someone that is much more commonly associated with the series, from what I'm understanding as well. And I really liked Anna's design from Fire Emblem. I would have loved to, but I don't think as a character, it sounds like she's not really a player character. So I'm like, well, I feel like it's someone that you'd want to play as, kind of more so. And it's like it tends to be more so that than the others, or main character protagonist situation. So I like a lot of Tiki stuff, and with a lot of the current roster seemed a lot more brawler situation. So kind of more of the different kind of fighting styles. I thought Tiki would bring a interesting one to the arena.
Tiki is an interesting choice, yeah, because she's not a sword fighter or any of that. She's a mannequin, so she transforms into a dragon and she does shit. So that's actually she's actually in 2 games at this point, the original Fire Emblem and then Mister of the Emblem. To speak to the other characters you mentioned, Celica, she's one of the 2 protagonists of the second game. But the reason why I had skipped over is because, well, that was the second game. We've moved on at this point. And Fire Emblem is much like Final Fantasy in that regard. But, and then Anna as well. Anna, at this point, I want to say she's a shopkeep in the first game, or she's a tutorial character. She doesn't actually become, like, a character until much later in the timeline, not till the DS era.
Awakening.
Yeah, no, 3DS would be, 3DS. Yeah, so Anna would not have been. Anna would have been laughed off the stage at this point. It's like, you are a headshot PNG. That's all you are right now. Literally.
No, I believe it.
Yeah. All 3 of those choices, Tiki, Celica, and Anna, I would love to have them in Smash now, and they would all be fresh choices now, actually. But Tiki,
I have ideas for all 3 of
them. Definitely. Cool. Nice pick.
All right. So my next one, I think I'm going to go down the obvious path at this point. I've, kind of gotten into a few, perhaps odder choices. But, yeah, it's his time to shine. It's Luigi. Get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
There you go. Yeah, I think the reasons why we left Luigi in the dust in the NES and Super Nintendo games, I think, is valid. Just because they were smaller rosters and there was more to go around with choosing more unique movesets. But at this point, Luigi is too big of a character to turn down, I think.
Yeah, easily.
So my next one is indeed also Luigi. May as well get it out of the way.
All right. Curb, who do you have for us next?
So I did want to ask a comment real quick, because just to touch on Luigi, since I already revealed him, that kind of made me think of the stuff like, oh, well, they didn't have much to go on at that point. And that keeps making me wonder, the idea of, what if, not saying this is what we're doing, but, Luigi didn't seem to have his own main game until, the mansion, however longer that is farther down the timeline kind of situation, was just something I was thinking of.
Well, Smash, and, we say that some characters don't have anything to do yet, but at the same time, we also acknowledge that Smash mixed things up a lot of times. Luigi's what's it? Luigi missile attack? Yeah, that's made the fuck up. That doesn't exist.
Missile attack?
Green,
His side special.
Green missile. His side special,
Mm-hmm.
where he explodes forwards like a rocket.
Okay.
Yeah. So so there is room to be creative, even though we've kind of poo-pooed out on it with some characters, like we were talking about with Zelda. But also in NES, Zelda is a PNG.
Mm-hmm.
So Zelda's a sleeping PNG in the first Zelda game, so it's kind of a no there. But with Luigi, it's more fun. And also, Luigi and Mario, you kind of expect them to be similar. Because that's how they've always been up to this point anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not... Yeah. It's not... It's like, if there's going to be a samesies between characters, this makes the most sense.
Yeah. And they could easily make them unique. Because, Mario has Fireball, Super Jump Punch, the Cape, and then
The Tanuki.
Mario Tornado. He does not have the Tanuki in Smash. But as I was about to say, they give Luigi other power-ups, like the raccoon suit or the frog suit.
Yeah, you
So they
can
easily
also
could go more unique.
Yeah, you could, and you can even go into the spin-offs, Mario Party or even Super Mario 2 or Tennis or whatever to build his moveset at this point.
Oh god, are we going to argue Luigi as the spin-off character and just completely shoot out Waluigi's chances later in the future?
No, because in this universe, Waluigi's Mansion is made.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Well,
Which is actually not a haunted mansion thing though. It's more like Leisure Suit Larry.
yeah, Waluigi
No.
is actually not available for a while.
Because he's not on. Mhm. Is he even available in the GameCube cutoff? I wonder.
No.
Zelda and Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time, anyway, aren't for this one. So.
Yep. All right, but then
Back to my list, yeah, because I tangented with Luigi. So, because both of you have revealed someone on your list that's a little more either anti-hero or villainous on it, and I was trying to think of it having a couple people, or people, well, this one isn't even a person, characters that are more like, okay, kind of has the more devious side, the mischievous side for it, and this guy is total mischievous gremlin energy. So there's no way that it took a bit, and I finally came around to putting him on my list. But it is Gengar.
Nice.
Look at him.
Nice.
It's a very unexpected choice.
And because there was a lot of Pokemon that were on our starting list for ones that we would consider, and we could have considered any of them.
Yeah.
So I was just looking. I was trying to make sense of it, and I think that was a big thing when I was finalizing my list and talking to Zantok about it. We were going over even the anime for when stuff was big on everything, and with the episodes that have released and stuff, I think one of the big memorable ones that stuck with people was the ghost shenanigans that Ash had at Lavender Tower. So
Ash
just
fucking died that episode.
I know Gengar was there for it. I feel like that's a big part of the series where it's okay, I see it. I think he should it fits I could and Gengar is I think it's pretty certified fan favorite in that sense where I think that's a big enough deal. I think he would fit very well, and he just screams like he would have so much mischief out to be on the arena. So that's what I wanted him for.
I mean, if I had to add one more Gen 1 Pokemon to Smash proper, Gengar would be my choice. Sorry, Meowth, but Gengar would be my choice.
Mm-hmm.
Gengar's also prominent in the games, isn't he? Where Gengar is one of the first Pokemon that you see in the opening animation for
Gengar
Red, Blue, and
Nidorino.
Green.
Yep.
What did you say?
Gengar Nidorino.
Nidorino?
Yeah.
Hold the phone. What? Hold on.
Yeah.
We're stopping the episode.
Go watch the fucking intro.
They say Nidorino in the intro? Are you kidding me? It's been so long. I've always. Wow. How did they mess it up that bad?
What do you
Holy
mean? Mess what up?
It's Nidorino.
You say Nidorino?
Okay, when Nidorino, when they appear later in the anime, do they still call it Nidorino?
I'm sorry. We're gonna be using the anime's pronunciations as godlike truth. Let's see how many different canon pronunciations there are for Rayquaza and Arceus. There are
Honestly,
several
fair, but-
conflicting canon pronunciations for those two. So no, I would say it how I'm gonna say it.
Oh no.
Nidorino.
This is how the metaverse
It looks
breaks.
like a rhino. Fuck you.
Nidorino.
And it's not, and also it's not Rayquaza.
Nidorino sounds
Because
really bad,
Rayquaza
actually.
sounds like shit. Rayquaza is a stupid name. It's Rayquaza. Fuck you.
And then Arceus is perfect because then when
Yeah, I
when
used to
friggin'
say
Legends came around,
I used to say Arceus, and then we had Type Null come out with the RKS system, which is clearly supposed to be referencing Arceus. It's like, okay, well, I guess Arceus makes more sense.
it needs to be Arceus because then when Legends rolls around, I can do all my work through my Arse phone instead of my Arc phone.
Don't you do that normally?
No,
I think you're talking out of your arse.
no, that's a booty call. That's different.
That's a normal day for you.
Yeah, fine. I don't think that's the burn you think it is, but okay.
It is when you're on the street corner.
It's my street corner, at least.
Yeah, I know. You're there every night.
Good lord. Move on. It's your turn.
Moving on.
How do we go from Gengar to booty call? Can we like get the flow chart for that?
I
How
think
do
the
we
flow
not?
chart is Gengar to Nidorino to Yuaho.
Shut up. Okay.
All right. We've all revealed half of our rosters now. Let's get into more. You revealed a Pokemon. I think I'll reveal another Pokemon now. There's 151 choices. Granted, some of them aren't realizable, like Magikarp and Goldeen and honestly all the fish. All the fish. But there are several
Last
good
fish.
choices. You could easily narrow it down to something like 10, 20 or something like that, or like valid options. So it can be hard to pick like what's a good Pokemon to add in. But I only picked two. I picked Pikachu and I picked Mewtwo. There's a couple reasons I went with Mewtwo. One, it's the big one. He is the legendary Pokemon. Yeah, sure. There's Articuno and the other fucking birds.
Raikou
Mewtwo-
from Gen 9.
What?
What? We just had the thing about pronunciations, and I just said I pronounce it how I want to, so I can't control it. Anyways, Mewtwo. The Legends of the Legend of
Raikou.
Legends.
I guess it is Raikou.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. Like even now, when there are 1,000 fucking Pokemon, Mewtwo is still the Legend of Legends. Unless you can argue Arceus, sure, but Mewtwo is the guy. And considering back then, Psychic type was, because of how they programmed the games, Psychic type was OP as fuck.
Mm-hmm. Broken.
Mewtwo stands out a hell of a lot. Also, we were kind of talking about the anime and how many episodes would have been out by this point. Mewtwo, the first movie, would not have released at this point in the timeline, but they absolutely were working on it. There's no way that they weren't. Granted, I didn't check the dates. Maybe I should have. But I think it's fairly safe to say that the movie was in the works, and the Smash team is going to know that. And I think that's reason enough to at least think about Mewtwo.
Sure. Good choice. Both good choices on the Pokemon front, guys. Yeah, I mean, Mewtwo at the time was huge and still is. And you're absolutely right that if the Pokemon movie were in the works or it was released or whatever, if it was unreleased, then Sakurai or whoever's developing it would know, because as we know from our universe of Smashdom, the Pokemon Company keeps Nintendo and Sakurai privy to what they're working on next, which is how we got Greninja and some other characters.
And Incineroar.
Yeah, that one. that one. So it wouldn't be unusual for them to say this Pokemon is going to be like freaking huge. Here you go. If you want to use them. So for my next pick is also from an RPG. And they have been a hero, they've been a villain, they've been under the control of other elements, and they've broken free. They've lived and they've died and they've lived again, and after breaking the change from their former masters, they took up residence in the city to join the Lost Numbers in their missions.
God damn it! Stop it! Stop it!
It's Mwamba from
Enough of
Xenoblade
the
Chronicles
Mwamba!
3.
You mention him in every one of these episodes! Stop!
What the hell is going on?
Pick a new joke! You always take a joke, it's like, and then you run into the goddamn ground, where you pick a new one, and then you run into the goddamn ground. Stop it!
Holy shit.
Holy shit, dude!
God. Whoa.
Pick a new one!
Ah!
Oh my fucking god!
Guys, the parents are fighting.
Done with your bullshit.
Actually, it's one-sided.
Sounds like we need to break your flame clock and set you free.
Ew.
I'm going to kill you.
Maybe one day, but then
Maybe tomorrow.
God,
I'll
it's
just
flying
have to-
back.
I gotta look
I'll
up
just
flights. I
have
gotta
to-
look up flights.
I'll have to enter my 10th term if you do that.
I swear to fuck.
Oh my god.
Maybe you can help me retire.
You already know this is gonna be a long episode.
Yeah, well, I was teeing it up for Mewtwo because he's also on my list.
That made no sense.
Because he's a fucking troll and I hate him.
Ah. I'm the least troll on this call. I'm the one in danger.
Do you have anything
Well,
else
the
to
night is
fucking
young.
add?
No, like you
All right,
covered it pretty
Curb,
well.
pick your next one.
Good for
Holy
you.
shit. Oh my
Good job.
god. Ah! Well, if I can say, none of us have stuck our foot into the, hey, all these are Nintendo. Did any of us pick any that were third party?
I mean, we've
But-
unofficially saved them for the last two episodes. It's been
Well-
very unofficial. So you can do what you want.
Well, Curb can break the mold.
yeah,
He's
Curb can break the mold.
Fuck you, do it wow.
All right, you Haxorus.
What? Yes.
Because mold breaker.
Right. Thank you for thinking me Haxorus and not
It's
saying
the
like
only one I
Pancham.
remember.
Okay. Well, I think, yeah, this list still needs a little more feminine energy. I would like to introduce Jill Valentine.
Holy cow!
Oh.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, I like Jill a lot. I was looking at a lot of the stuff for it, and the thing is, I was trying to not do anything too samey, and I was thinking about it between her and Chris, and I was like, I think if we wanted something more individual, plus, not like I said, part of my list was making sure I had a little bit more gender representation, and
Mhm.
Jill was perfect for it. Jill knocked out like a lot of different competitions. I'm like, yeah, it's her. She's gonna be on my list no matter what. I like Jill a lot, so yes, Jill.
So,
Sweet.
obligatory sandwich joke.
Ah, oh no.
And then we move on because it's been said.
Yes.
All right, 4 cards left for me. Let's reveal. Yeah, Fox McCloud. It's Fox. He's we got more ideas of what he can do now. He is also in Smash 64 proper, so we know that's not an issue anymore. So Fox.
Another character from a sci-fi universe like Xenoblade.
Dude, seriously.
Oh
I
no!
like
Oh
Fox.
no!
He's a fox. He's a fox with human proportions.
That's called anthropomorphism. It's not a new concept.
You could have
At all?
phrased it better.
Yeah, he could have, but it's him and he fucking won't.
This is the man who originated Pants Kirby. So yeah.
Why did you bring that back?
I love it. I love it.
I'm the least troll here. Are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the one trying to keep a serious fucking show going.
This was serious.
I take it serious.
I'm taking it seriously too, because comedy is serious. It's serious business, mister.
What he does is
It
not
is.
serious comedy.
Okay, what he does. What about me?
You are on thin ice. He already fell through. You're on thin ice.
No, you know what state I'm in. There is no ice here.
Ah, right. Yes, because you're in the
It's like
clouds.
It's like 110 where Zantok is today, though. I hear anyway.
No, where I am, it's in the 60s because I have air conditioning.
Oh God.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Sweet.
Also, outside it's only 88, so you're very wrong.
Oh boy.
Oh, I wonder where in your state.
I
it's
don't
100.
know. I don't care.
Huh.
Reveal your 6th character or 7th, whichever it may be.
I'll look it up later. It's the 7th. Yeah, I think Curb has a interesting string of thought here where he's saying maybe we can discuss bring more female characters to the table. I agree at this point, at least to discuss, if not pass through. So at this point, I will bring one that was a very big reveal back in the Melee era, which is kind of almost where we're at now. So Peach is on my list.
Woo.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yep.
Peach.
She, at this point in the Mario timeline, speaking of like raw like energy and stuff, she's baked cakes and gotten kidnapped. Done all sorts of stuff.
This is true. And by this point, we've had Super Mario Brothers 2, and we've had Mario RPG,
And
which
yeah.
It's honestly surprising how much of her moveset comes from RPG. A decent bit.
Mhm. Yeah, the pan and some other stuff.
I mean, Parasol.
That too. That is true.
Mhm.
Yeah, the weapon that she's most known for using in Mario games, Parasol, comes from RPG.
Yep.
Love it.
Me too.
All right, Curb, what's your number 7?
My number 7. Well, someone had to talk about an animal with human proportions. So, how dare you? But I'm also just going to be the weird one and get both of my third parties out of the way. My other one is actually Mr. Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, holy cow. I said that again about you're the third party character.
Holy cow.
Interesting.
I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. A
'Cause
massive character. Yeah.
Massive for sure. I'm thinking back to little, not even a teenager yet, Curb, and
The
Smash
Curb,
was
Curb.
happening and getting excited about it. And I'm trying to equate other video games that I remember were big in the forefront, other stuff that I was aware of and would have wanted to play and watched like my family play and stuff. And
Mhm.
Crash was one of the top ones there. And I'm like, you know what? In this era, around this time where other stuff was coming out, like nothing could beat the friggin' avalanche snowball that was Pokemon. But Crash carved itself a good niche, and it was worth it.
Crash was the
So-
PlayStation mascot at the time.
Yeah.
It would be a huge get.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I think that'd be appropriate. I think the only other closest one I remember, because back when we had the consoles at the same time, was I just remembered Spyro being big. But I think I honestly don't remember if Spyro was on any of the lists, and B, Crash just fits the Smash universe better, in my opinion.
Here's the thing with Spyro. One, his games did not do well in Japan. The first game had some localization changes. I don't remember exactly what happened, but ended up making the game not be popular in Japan. It was not well received. Plus, Spyro doesn't exist yet at the point in time that we had available to us. So, yeah, no Spyro. Sad.
Spyro in the Japanese port just called all the onigiri jelly rolls.
Oof.
What?
And they're like, what is wrong with Spyro?
No. Anyways. Alright, 3 left. I was going to do a swerve and do a third party before I revealed my final Nintendo, but Curb did 2 third parties in a row, so yeah, I don't feel like doing that anymore. So let's get my final Nintendo character out of the way. You know, we've got a few tricksters that we've talked about so far. You know,
Mhm.
you can kill day to day a trickster. Crash could kind of take that label a little bit, maybe. My offering, I didn't really pick him for this reason, but this character would also fill out that bill. Wario!
There he is.
Boy, oh buddy bear.
And at this point, you know, WarioWare doesn't exist yet, so we just be pulling from, you know, Super Mario Land 2 and however many Wario Land games exist by this point, which I want to say is a couple.
Yep. As a child conceived and birthed in the 1990s, I am okay with Wario representing land.
Yes.
Was it just Wario Land that would be out at this point, or was Wario Land 2 also out, I wonder?
I will check our good old friend,
Okay.
the Mario Wiki.
All right. At the same time, I mean, there's a number of different hats in the original Wario Land that he would use in his moveset if only the first were out, and that's fine too. Like, there's still a lot there.
Let's see here. Wario Land 2 does exist. I'm
Oh,
checking
wow.
if Wario Land 3 would exist or not. It does not. Wario Land 3 does not exist yet.
Yeah, I figured.
We're about 4 months away from Wario Land 3, I think.
Nice.
No, oh, wait. Oh, no. I looked at the wrong date range. Wario Land 2 does not exist yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Well, still.
Wait.
Slap a
maybe-
bull helmet
shit.
on him and...
it's 2 months away from existing. So, you know, borderline, they know it's coming kind of a deal.
Mhm.
Ooh.
But Virtual Boy Wario Land exists.
Hell yeah. And at this point, Wario and Bomberman probably came out as well. So there's a plus.
Good question.
Because remember, that was a thing on the Game Boy. Wario Blast.
Wario Blast featuring Bomberman released 1994. So yeah, it's definitely exists by now.
Sick. And that's a good segue, too, to say that I have one third-party character on my list, and because Curb kind of broke the mold already, I will say it's Wario's cohort that he terrorized in Wario Blast, Bomberman.
Hmm.
But all
Hudson
he can do is
character.
throw bombs.
In a variety of ways, and there's different bombs to choose from, not just the standard. So there, I feel like there's enough. And Hudson is a great friend of Nintendo at the time. They're developing the Mario Party series. That's a big hit. So yeah, and interestingly enough, this is well before they were absorbed into Konami. So I think that you know, for myriad reasons, this is probably where Bomberman was the most successful in this era. So I wanted to give him the nod here, while we kind of still could.
Makes sense.
It's still weird that he's just an assist.
Yeah.
Ultimate.
Honestly, any
Like,
third-party character that is an assist in Ultimate is weird to me. It's like, what are you doing here?
That
You
is.
should be playable.
Yeah. For the most part, yeah, with exception to side characters, but yeah, the main
Yeah,
characters, sure.
like anything that's kind of unrealizable. Like, I'm sorry, I can't. Bob and Bob. I don't know if Bob and Bob can be playable. I'm sure somebody will yell at me and say yes, they can. But for characters like they really kind of can't be, sure. But Bomberman can be playable. Shovel Knight can be playable.
Mm-hmm.
Rathalos?
From stories anyway.
Yes.
Rodon.
All right, Curb. What is your number 8?
My number
You're out of
8.
third parties. Go back to Nintendo Land.
No, I have another third party that is on my list, though.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you're right. Of course I don't.
I did the graphic. I know your list.
I hacked your computer and did otherwise.
What's my password?
I'm not gonna out you like that.
Do
Nipple 49.
Ew, Jonno, fuck you. Never mind. I'm killing this bit. Never mind. Never mind.
Do you see what I have to put up with?
Nitter Rhino.
Jonno, there
40.
is a line
Nido
that I
Rhino.
prefer not to cross
Nido.
on the podcast. You have towed that line twice today already.
Hey,
don't-
guys,
I
hey.
don't even remember the
here's-
first time.
I think we're all gonna be at each other's throats enough. So how about we do one where we all agree? I also have Fox on my list.
Whoa, yeah.
It's because you
So-
find him foxy.
I mean, he's a literal fox, so that's like kind of the definition.
Okay.
It's like saying Gengar is Gengar-y.
Or gangreeny.
Ew, he's purple, not green.
For that's what
Gengar.
in this sprite,
Wait, is this shiny
Gengar
green?
would ghost you.
I want to say I've seen a green Gengar, but that might be false.
Well, now I'm curious. What does shiny Gengar look like?
I think shiny Gengar is just a disappointment. It's shiny Mega, and shiny Gigantamax cool, but shiny regular Gengar is just darker.
Oh, the shiny
What?
Mega. The shiny Mega is awesome. It's like white. That's so
I
cool.
know, it's so good. And then they kept that for the Gigantamax too.
They did? Oh.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess the Gigantamax is kind of Clefairy pink, but
They made it. He's just a darker, less vibrant purple.
yeah,
Ah. Blasted.
yeah.
Okay.
This is why I
They-
don't know why people get so excited about shinies, because most of them suck.
They fixed it. I know. A good amount of them do.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Any hoodle. But yes. Hello, Fox. Welcome back. It seems like it was like appropriate that we need you on here.
Mission compris.
Oh my god.
That's what he says.
I know.
I didn't make it happen.
Okay.
All right, so my next one, it's time for some third parties because I got two. My first one, they've kind of been mentioned here a bit. They got some history with Nintendo. They got some history with, well, not Mario. They almost had history with Mario, but then Nintendo was just like, it doesn't make sense for Mario to throw bombs. Bomberman. He's on my list as well. Consider
No.
that, like, there's a lot of third parties to choose from. Like, I could go with Ryu from Street Fighter. I actually very much considered him, but I decided with things on the current timeline, maybe not a Capcom one at this time. So I went with Bomberman. Hudson Soft's friends with Nintendo, and they had Wario Blast. And just the idea of having both Wario and Bomberman introduced at the same time is amusing.
Definitely.
The reveal trailer for whichever one is the second one of them revealed would be perfection.
Yeah, can't fault that pick. Cool. Okay, so for my next pick here, let's see, how do we want to wrap things up? I'm gonna give you a someone of the jungle variety, another animal with, well, actually not quite human proportions. Not quite chimpanzee proportions either, not realistically anyway. But either way, it's Dixie Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, still, coming off the high of the Donkey Kong Country era. Dixie starred in the last two Donkey Kong Country games, which were super popular on the Super Nintendo, within the top 25 bestsellers. I'm sure all three of them were. Yeah, I mean, bada bing, bada bing. We're not quite at DK64 yet, where for some reason she's not in. But, and that's kind of just the benefit of coming in earlier at the N64 life cycle, is where I would imagine Nintendo would still be imagining, like, oh, Dixie Kong's really popular and is totally not going to get the shaft by Rare in DK64. So we can include her here. Yeah, and again, it's one of those characters that roundabouts, not to have future vision, but where now in Smash she were in, it's her time now. So it feels like a very kind of presently relevant conversation to have too.
See, I thought about a Donkey Kong character, but I probably would have gone for K. Rool. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just because he's had more consistent, like he's been in all three of them. Would have been like my primary reasoning.
Sure. Yeah, I can see the reasoning there. At least it's not Kiddy Kong. There's, I
No,
think
never.
he and Dixie are the two obvious choices, and at this point, I think are fairly evenly matched.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, back to the curb. Yep.
Yep. Well, I'm looking at my list. I'm looking at some of the other stuff out there and stuff, and I do believe that we do need a little more villainous energy in here. And I'm going to match one of your guys' Kirby Universe picks, and that's going to be King Dedede.
Well,
It was, yeah.
Clobber that Kirby for wearing pants.
Like, yes, he's not allowed. But it was like very much like coin flip. And I'm like, it was tough because it's like Meta Knight is like so Kirby shaped that I'm like, I don't know if I could put him in there. I mean, like, there's the argument for the sword stuff, but like Big Hammer is just awesome. So I say yes, King Dedede.
I mean, you know who else is Kirby shaped?
Me. Jigglypuff.
Jigglypuff.
Right.
Oh my god, I love that guy.
Yeah, we know.
Jigglypuff.
Why?
Jigglypuff.
It's not even Jonno doing it this time.
Gosh! Oh my
No,
gosh! That's
fine.
so awesome.
I'm fine. I'm more troll than I thought.
Oh my god. I'm just gonna reveal my last character.
Sleepy.
Curb.
No.
No,
No.
Curb. No, Curb, listen. Listen to me. Before we started, we were having a chat about lists, and I was coy with you about one of my characters. And I told you that there's a funny thing between our two lists and two of our characters, and that you would know exactly who it was when you saw it, and you would understand why there's a funny thing between these characters.
Uh-huh. Should I have realized it already, or are you doing it now?
It's Leon Kennedy.
Oh, hi there!
I was so amused when
Hi there.
you gave me your list, and I see Jill Valentine, and it's like, we seriously picked two different Resident Evil characters. Oh my god. Ow. But god damn. It's like in that, like you said, between like Jill and Chris, like which one do you go between them? When you're looking at Resident Evil 1, they're pretty much the same thing. I mean, they had like some different like quote unquote stats between them that make them slightly different characters to play as. But as far as context of the game is concerned, they play the same. The reason why I went with Leon is simply because Resident Evil 2 is newer. It's the newest Resident Evil game. Leon's the pro tag. I picked Leon. That's it. That said, Jill will be the pro tag for Resident Evil 3. So there's that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, buddy. That's an alligator.
Well,
yeah,
that's
as I mentioned
that's what
earlier,
Leon says
Ryu. Like I originally was gonna do Leon and Ryu, but it's like I don't want to do both from Capcom. I can't. That doesn't make sense to me. Let's drop Ryu for Bomberman.
Yeah, Capcom is kind of consistently throughout the eras probably Nintendo's greatest friend. But, you know, if you had 2 plus Mega Man X in the previous game, I feel like that's a little overkill.
Yeah. Plus, unlike Street Fighter, the Resident Evil was actually on N64. So.
Yeah. Surprising with the card, actually. So
yeah, I was surprised when I looked up that fact. Like, oh, because I was going to drop Leon. It's like, wait, Resident Evil was on N64. Oh, shit. Yeah, this is fine. I'm okay with my pick.
Weird. And cool. That and X can already do Shoryuken and Naruken anyway. If you want to be technical.
That's true.
I do feel like Ryu feels like an inevitability. He crosses over into everything, but right now it's not his time. Although I would say that leverages the Luigi argument is that in other fighting games as well, you tend to have a cloney character be your like eternal player too, so like Ryu and Ken. So that can apply to Luigi as well. Like if there's gonna be a clone, it's Luigi, that sort of thing.
Easy.
Yeah. And he's Nintendo's second most iconic character. So there's that too. But we'll get there. So for my final choice, we're going to veer off course and into the waves, and back on course because he races on waves in Wave Racer 64 and Wave Race Blue Storm and those other Wave Race games. Ryota Hayami. There you go.
That's just an actual person. What?
It's a racing game character, not a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But you are going to have a hell of a pitch to give when we get to the debates, because what the F?
Yeah, we'll leave it for that.
Okay. Well, it's just my turn. And let's leave the audience on a cliffhanger. We'll be right back with that.
And
no.
we're back.
And we're back. So, no, I was talking to Zantok about it, and when I started this, I made a rule that I was only going to have 2 Pokemon on the list. And
But
very
clearly
last
from
minute...
the graphics placement, that is a lie.
Yeah. I mixed it up a bit. I was thinking of stuff, so I also have a Pokemon here. And that one I have is actually Charizard.
The most popular starter ever, even now.
He really is. And that was a big reason, like, you know what, yeah. Because I think, like, Charizard would be there. I think Gengar was the one that was the extra third for it for me. Because I needed more villain energy on my roster, and Gengar fit that.
Yeah, just think of all the Nidorrhinos that Gengar...
Nido.
Nido? Nido?
If you could say Rhino, I can say Nido.
Oh my god, you're so stupid.
Yay! That's how you sound.
Really?
Yes,
so.
Rhino. Okay,
All
we got
right.
everything.
I
Look at our
wasn't gonna
full
bring
list.
it up.
Damn.
But looking at Nidorrhino's page, meaning from Needle, Rhinoceros.
Oh, I'm gonna call them
Fuck you.
Nidals. I'm gonna call them Nidals from now on instead of Needles.
So it's Nidorrhino then.
Yeah, it's Needle Reno.
He said Reno!
I said Needle Reno.
Needle Reno.
Yeah, we're going to Reno.
Oh my god.
What the hell are you gonna do there? Nidorrhino.
Not Nidorrhina. That sounds real bad. Real bad. Okay. So hey, look, we got all of our lists up. Look at this.
We do, and I think we got a couple of these twists, but we're also gonna have some debates. Most notably, I think there's gonna be a debate between Day-to-Day and Meta Knight. There's gonna be a debate on possibly Seliph or Tiki, maybe neither. Hard to really say. There's definitely gonna be a Pokemon debate. And then there's gonna be an interesting third-party debate. Oh boy! Oh,
look at those.
Boy.
It's an interesting list.
Yeah, it is. Where do we want to start? Do we just want to establish the obvious?
Yes.
I think it's easiest to get it out of the way, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so-
Crash Bandicoot.
I was gonna say Pikachu is out.
Out.
Yeah, clearly out.
Right,
Here,
sure.
let me just drop the red X over Pikachu right now.
What are you doing?
He's out.
And you put it over my Pikachu first.
I did. Because we gotta, put down another one.
And we're just gonna wait for you to undo it afterwards. So, hey, if you want to commit to the
we're
bit,
not
go ahead.
undoing it. All of the Pikachu is being cut out.
Why?
There is no Pikachu in this roster because Pikachu's stupid. That's why.
Why is Pikachu stupid?
Why is Pikachu stupid? Do you really want me to answer that question?
Because you're trolling, and we're obviously going to pick them.
Well, yeah, because I got to put the red X's on 2 of the Pikachus and only the green check mark on 1, so it's easy to do math.
What? Oh.
Otherwise, we're gonna
My
have
Pikachu.
three green check marks, and it's gonna be like, okay, so we got 3 characters. No, wait, that's not right. So yeah, Pikachu, obvious, they're in. Like, come on, guys, you really?
We
think they
can't
would
not,
be?
yeah.
I think we can do the other obvious one though.
Hurrah!
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fox is also in. It's no real
Agreed.
surprise.
I agree with that
Uh,
completely.
just the fact that he got into Smash 64 at this point as well, he kind of can't. I mean, there's no real argument to not include him like we had for the SNES, or we just weren't sure at the time. And I mean,
Yeah.
Star Fox 64 is a good game. I'm not sure if 64 is actually out by now, but if it wasn't, it's definitely in development.
97. I think that hits the list.
Okay, yeah. Then it's out for sure.
And it's
Hmm.
hugely popular. It was such a cultural thing at the time.
Yeah.
And there's an on foot mode in Star Fox 64 in multiplayer, so technically you do have them canonically out of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, guys, we got one more character that we can all agree on is an obvious one that we need to have at this point.
Can't tell you who.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, it's Ryota Hayami from Wave Race.
Nah, fuck you, no.
Nah, you're right. It's Luigi.
It's Luigi.
It's his time.
Mhm.
I think all three of those, like, I know there was the argument talking about those where it's like, oh, well, maybe they could get talked down. Like, I don't know the counter argument for any of these three,
Yeah,
honestly.
like it's never happened where something that we've all had on our list has been cut, but theoretically it could, because again, like, yes, we all had Fox on our list, but what if we got down to a situation where it's like Fox or Wario for the last spot? I'm just like, well, I'd rather have Wario. Then it becomes a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But cool, we got 3 out of our 10 already picked out, nice and easy. Pikachu, Fox McCloud, Luigi, well, in the Smash 64. The rest of you,
Up for elimination.
It just got hard
They're
for
all
them to
cut.
make it. They're all cut. We're only adding 3 new characters. No,
We have 4 Pikachus, 3 Foxes, and 3 Luigis.
fuck.
That fills out the roster. Okay,
Nice.
so I would like to make a suggestion for our first easy elimination.
Oh, okay.
Well, let's be fair. I broke my own rule about not having 2 Pokemon. So, I think if we could easily eliminate either Charizard or Gengar right off the bat.
Okay.
What do we think?
I mean, I do think, I don't necessarily because it's your rule, I don't think we need to do this, but I do think that only 2 Pokemon is fine to add at this point. I don't think we need to add a third one at this point in the timeline. We'll definitely get a third, possibly more, when we get to the GameCube episode. But for now, I think just 2 is fine. And if we're going to be having discussion, we might as well rope Mewtwo in here and figure out which one of these 3 we want to have as the second Pokemon rep.
I think that's a fair choice.
So
Yeah, may as well have the full debate now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just going to be my, if you don't mind, because like when I first started my list, Zantok knows, because I changed it afterwards. My original list was also Pikachu and Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big thought of it. And then that's when we started going back and looking at different release times and everything. And yeah, that's absolutely valid where Mewtwo, the Pokemon movie was likely in the works, just not released yet kind of thing. So it could have been like in the works and like it would have made sense for having Mewtwo in there if they knew it was coming down the pipeline or anything. I guess my wonder on it then is, if that was a possibility, I guess I'm wondering why it wasn't the case, and why the heck our second was Jigglypuff.
Oh, that can
Well,
be answered.
We
know why Jigglypuff. We don't strictly know why not Mewtwo. I can't remember if this is confirmed or not, or if it's been debunked, but it's been rumored in the past that Mewtwo was considered for Smash 64, cut for unknown reasons, possibly because they just couldn't get his abilities to work quite right. Who knows? But Jigglypuff was added as basically an extra character, kind of like how Luigi is built off of Mario's skeleton. Captain Falcon was built off of a
Samus?
No, from a kid from Dragon King. Samus was actually, I think, built off of Falcon's skeleton. Jigglypuff was a very, very literally the 12th character, and was added off of Kirby.
Makes a lot of sense.
Because they would be more easily able to modify Kirby's model to make another fighter than to completely original extra character that would have taken a lot more time to model and complete.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay.
But we don't have that restriction. We can do whatever
We don't
the
have
fuck
that
we want.
restriction. Good to know. And also that made a lot because with being able to create more of them, Jonno, one interesting thing that Zantok and Zantok pointed out when we were going back and looking at Pokemon episodes and stuff, the very first main Jigglypuff episode hadn't even aired yet. It aired after this cutoff.
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It was very much like, hey, considering all the rumors of how like Clefairy was supposed to be the mascot, it's like that was been like the perfect opportunity to make Clefairy engage with that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of looking through these and thinking about what to do for it because we don't have the restrictions. It makes sense for Mewtwo to kind of be there. Is it weird to consider like future iterations because of like how they managed to handle the Pokemon trainer with the different rotations, which Charizard was a part of?
We are doing our best to not implement future knowledge, but it is very difficult to not implement future knowledge.
It's hard to be ignorant about it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that said, I do think it is between Charizard and Mewtwo. I don't think Gengar stacks up against these two. Like they're a good option after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think the second slot is between Mewtwo or Charizard, and either one of them are good choices. Mewtwo is the legendary. It's psychic typing, so we'd be able to explore some realm that's not really covered yet in Smash. Yes, I know Ness is a psychic, but Ness uses more elemental type stuff with his psychic abilities, PK Thunder, PK Fire, and whatnot. Whereas Mewtwo would be, actually holding things in the air.
Actual telekinesis.
Yeah, and using confusion and whatnot. Charizard, meanwhile, as Jonno pointed out, and this is using future knowledge, but even back then, Charizard was the starter. Charizard was the popular starter easily. The only one of Ash's 3 starters to fully evolve. Not that happened at the point of time when the episode's been cut off, but the Pokemon.
I think it had actually.
No.
Really?
Yeah, we looked. The prehistoric episode hadn't aired yet. You're thinking of when we were looking a few months past that point.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I could have sworn.
I don't believe so. You're free to look it up, but I don't believe so.
I am just. I want to check my own work, kind of thing.
Yep, I'll keep going.
Go ahead.
But Charizard, the most popular starter. Red is typically associated with either Squirtle or Charmander, kind of depending on what the medium is. I think more often Charizard is who they give him. I'm not entirely sure about that. But being able to do fire attacks, which is not currently overpopulated in Smash, eventually it will be, but at this point it's just Mario and Bowser are the ones who have fire. So Charizard wouldn't be, taking up too much territory there. And maybe they can do something with wings. I don't know if they can at this point, but
yeah,
I was kind of
thinking the same.
Yeah, they're both heavy fighters classified in Smash. Charizard more obvious, but Mewtwo, while being heavy, is still floatier in the air, which kind of weird, but I think it's definitely between the two of them. Gengar is awesome. I love Gengar. A top favorite for me, but between these three and being added to Smash, Gengar loses.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I even said it myself that Gengar was the one I kind of slipped in there because I wanted more villain energy. Like, I just snuck him in. And kind of looking through the rest, and like, I've got the roster put up, the current roster put up on my other screen for what would add to, and it's like, how you were just saying Mewtwo is different enough from Ness, where it's like there's a lot of similarities between Charizard and Bowser for what some of their powers would be. If like I forgot, forgive me, does Bowser breathe fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them have Fire Breath as their standard special move in Smash, and it's very, very similar, even in Smash now. But I mean, what else is Charizard's standard special gonna be?
Yeah, it's the seismic toss. Yeah, I was very much like, like Mewtwo was kind of planned on it, but I was like, okay, Mewtwo was released a game later. It's like, were they trying to gauge it, trying to figure it out? But if they had the confidence and the means to be able to program instead of just using an extra Kirby skin kind of thing. I mean, I am comfortable with Mewtwo being the second Pokemon.
Well, we haven't heard from Jonno yet.
I think there's a really solid argument for both Pokemon. Charizard again is massively popular even at the time, and our future site shows that remains the case. Yeah, there's Fire Breath, but I mean Charizard has other things he can do, as evidenced in the rest of his Smash move set. So I think it's almost a question of now or later for either of these Pokemon. And I think there's not an issue with development at this point. Smash has been a series for 2 games and 2 separate generations prior to this. They're kind of getting their grips on additional dev time, whereas in our world, 64 was the first game. It's now the third. So Mewtwo with his floatiness and Charizard with his flying, as well as like DDD or Meta Knight or whoever had multiple jumps or whatever would be unique in this game. I don't think that would be an issue to program. They won't have the same developmental time limits. With that being said, for the sake of it, in my opinion, and this is no surprise because they're my choice as well, I think Mewtwo is the more unique option of the two, whereas from a popularity standpoint, like an influence standpoint, they're neck and neck. I also think that Mewtwo, with the movie almost out, they're going to want to promote him as well. So there's that element too. So that's to reinforce our choice. But I do think Charizard's a good choice, and will happen eventually. But yeah, Mewtwo is my pick too.
All right.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like then we're going to have Mewtwo be our second Pokemon.
Yup.
There is still a possibility as we go through these. We might decide to add a third if we're not feeling other options. But for now, at least, Gengar and Charizard, good try.
I like talking about Gengar. I mean, even if
They're both they're still strong.
They're great choices.
If we're gonna add too many Pokemon, we might as well just be like, hey, let's go play Pokemon Coliseum, guys, or Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah, Coliseum.
I would love to play.
I mixed it up. You weren't allowed to play it. What? Did I hear that right?
You did not hear that.
I did not. Oops.
I said I would love to play Coliseum. That's what I said.
Mm.
I never actually played it.
Or Stadium.
Twilix did, so I just watched part of it.
Okay, there you go. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
All right. Where do we want to go next?
Botswana.
New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea.
Oh, good lord.
You want to talk Kirby, I guess?
We really want to go from one debate to another?
Well, where can
you know what?
we move?
No, I'm going to pivot. We're pivoting. I know what we're going to pivot to. I don't know if this is going to result in an approval or denial, but Jonathan From, explain yourself.
Oh, with Ryota, you mean?
Yes. Explain yourself.
So Wave Race so from the top, Ryota is the box character. Wave Race is not a series like many sports series with a main character per se, but Ryota is the kind of primary character on the box of the Wave Race games. He's the first you can choose off of the character roster. So I'm like, okay, if there's a Wave Race character, it's him, right? Kind of like if there's a F-Zero character, it's Captain Falcon for the same reasons. So Wave Race at the time is actually pretty damn popular. It is the 14th best-selling Nintendo 64 game of the era, out of however many. And Interestingly enough, there's actually a tie for 47th place, so there's not an actual top 50 best-selling games.
Wait, hold
That's
on. Segue. What's tied for 47?
Bomberman Hero, Bomberman 64, and YIA Country Club. True Golf Classics.
Why is that character not in the roster?
YIA. Let's see. What is going on in YIA? Because it had negative reviews. It was given a 1 out of 10 by
Wait, it was
Game
number
Revolution.
47?
Yes, apparently so.
Wow. I'm not sure if that speaks
Yeah.
well for it or bad for Bomberman.
Yeah, they all sold 1 million copies of Pop.
Wow.
Interesting. Maybe people just wanted to golf in Hawaii. You know, the
I mean,
tourism is real.
Topical.
Yes, at the time of recording, it definitely is more topical than it normally is. Unfortunately. Yeah. So again, it's a greatly popular 64 game, and it had a Game Boy game as well to lesser fanfare, but nonetheless. So it's a very current franchise, and I feel like you can pull from a couple of things for the move set. Like, it's not impossible. I think the jet ski could be incorporated in like a side special. You can
Could be
also
enough.
use like a could be an up as well. You can use the like sea buoy in an up special or a down special for recovery or whatever. You can spin around in the jet ski for a down special as well. Like a Pokemon, he could potentially summon waves.
Oh boy.
Or, just kind of like use his like lithe athletic body. You know, you have to have a really strong core to be piloting these things as a professional racer. So, kind of similarly to Captain Falcon, he could be kicking and punching in a very considerable way, but rather with flame elements, it would be water elements. So, I kind of view him in that light as a current, like, of the era, rather popular character from a rather popular new franchise. And Wave Race doesn't die out until after the GameCube era too, so it's still like fairly current for a while.
So in a way, it sounds like Ryota is a matchup for Captain Falcon. They both fit the same vein, same wavelength of a character.
Interesting.
Could potentially be. Whereas many of these choices that we have here are more evergreen characters from kind of spanning history for Nintendo, Ryota's a very in the now character. Arguably the most 64 of the 64 characters, just by process of elimination. So there you go.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't put you on the stake yet. You gave a valid argument.
Okay.
I on the other. No, I don't know.
You on the other. Looking at where we're at, none of the characters that we have up here on the board, now that Ryota has been explained, are ones I think can be an easy kill. So I think we are back to debates.
Shoot.
Because our debates are, Meta Knight King Dedede, Sigurd Tiki. If you want to have a debate between the Mario/Mario adjacent of Wario, Peach, Dixie Kong, because do we want to in 4 Mario/Mario adjacents? You could argue Game & Watch in Balloon Fighter as a retro debate, Ryota, Captain Falcon potentially as a debate, and then the
Resident Evil
parties. Resident Evil, Crash, and Bomberman is all going to be one big thing. But we'll wait until we've gotten 8 characters picked out first, I think, and then we'll look at that.
To pick someone else,
Yeah.
okay.
I kind of feel like the easiest debate might be the Mario one. Potentially.
Okay.
So that's between Peach and Wario, and you also said Dixie too?
Yeah, Dixie would count in this.
Gotcha. So I do want to bring up a point, and this was one that it kind of helped me with my list when Zantok and I were talking it out and everything is like how much they could do with stuff and everything. Because I felt like at this point, I don't think they had given Peach as much agency yet, and like as much to like be like the protagonist in the game. She was still very damsel in distress, so it's kind of like I know that she has the parasol, but that's me thinking like, okay, how much of that is me knowing the Peach we have today, kind of thing. Like, would it have been realistic? And I don't know enough about Dixie Kong to make that same kind of call. If she would be, or if she'd be too similar to Diddy Kong even. Wario seems the most like A, viable as like a fighter, and B, like something new and something fresh on it as well. Which sucks because here I am outruling trying to like say that these two female ones are where I made a big deal, but like I want girls on my list.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I just don't know about Dixie, but Peach was the one where like Peach was on my original list. She was on my original 10. I was like, how much is she? Like, was she a player character? Was she one that they had that kind of like, be able to move around with that and like work around her as a fighter at that point? I don't remember. I don't know.
I
Yeah,
have a
I,
video game assignment for you to play.
What? You have an assignment for me to play?
I do. Go play Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, because Peach is a playable party member in that game.
Oh, cool.
That said, she is still, damsel in distress-y for the most part. At this point, she's only really had playable appearances in that game, and also Super Mario Bros. 2, which is really Doki Doki Panic. There's a whole thing with that. Beyond that, Peach's playability wouldn't next come up again until Super Princess Peach, a game with its
it has
let's
a
say
controversy.
controversies. And we don't need to go into that right now because it doesn't exist at this point in the timeline anyways.
Okay.
But Peach, I mean, there is valid argument about Peach and what she would be able to bring to the table, but I don't think it's a big problem for SNES. I would not have brought her on. But at this point, Mario RPG exists now. She uses parasol as a weapon. She slaps people. She hits them with frying pans. She can throw bombs. She can make people go to sleep. She can heal herself and people and bring them back from the dead. I think that's everything she does in RPG. I don't think I've missed anything.
Dang.
No, that sounds about right. And then from Super Mario Bros. 2 is where she got her ability to float through the air, as well as to pluck vegetables and throw them. And then, there's always Toad, the loyal retainer, who is part of her Smash moveset.
I know you said retainer, but why did I think like one you could at a dentist? Yeah. Why did that when my brain went first?
Scary.
Yeah. Let's all
right.
put Toad in our mouths.
Don't you mean mushrooms? Are you saying that we should?
Are we doing
shrooms?
shrooms? Jonno
that's
talks
better
like he's constantly on shrooms, though.
Honestly, I would believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mario canonically does not like shrooms.
Well, I'm gonna say your argument for Peach does have me regretting that I took her off my list. I was worried there wasn't gonna be much to go with it because I actually had her and Zelda had an even weaker argument because I don't even think Sheik was the thing yet.
Zelda, I would not be able to defend yet because at this point, Ocarina of Time does not exist.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And even then, that would be points towards Sheik. Now, granted, Zelda in Melee uses stuff from Ocarina of Time. I would argue more for Sheik at that point, personally.
Yeah.
I think at this point, Peach has enough arguments for her. That said, again, she wasn't on my list either. For similar reasons, like I thought they were, she has enough stuff to do, but I thought there were other characters I can go with, and we can add in Luigi this time. And I was thinking, maybe Peach comes in next time of the core Mario 4. But then looking at Dixie Kong. Because you brought up Dixie Kong might be very similar to Diddy Kong, and that argument is still valid today. Even taking future knowledge into account, Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong are very similar in terms of what they would do. They can absolutely make them be different. One of Dixie's primary traits is her ponytail, which is strong enough to pick up barrels and throw them, as well as be spun through the air, so she can glide through the air like it's a helicopter.
Whoa! What?
Yeah, kind of. How Tails from Sonic can fly with his tails? Dixie Kong does that with her hair.
I
So, yeah.
had no idea.
Beyond that, though, they're pretty much the same. There's not really a difference past that point. So it is, I think, a little bit of a harder sell to make Young stand out compared to Peach. And then Wario, funnily enough, rumor goes that if he was added into Melee, he would have been a borderline Mario clone, which is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But Wario can definitely be unique as well. Give him his shoulder tackle or shoulder bash, however you want to call it. I think he could probably still have a fart move because I don't know if he did that in Wario Land or if that was just a WarioWare thing. But he's a gross man. He's gross. It makes sense. But then even in the Wario Land games, he has different hat transformations. Becoming a bull where he can charge and create a shockwave by crashing to the ground. So, you get a ground pound technique. He can wear a hat that puts like a little dragon thing on his head that he can breathe fire out of its nose. There's the jet that he can, honestly, that one's pretty much just charging moves. So maybe not that. And then Small Wario, he becomes teeny tiny. So I don't know what you would do with that either. But Bull Wario can become a ground pound-like technique, give him the shoulder tackle, give him... Honestly, they could probably still do the Wario corkscrew for enough special. I don't really see an issue there. There is no bike yet. But I think there's stuff they can do with it still. The Dixie Kong is, of the three of these, the one I think is the harder sell. I think the only reason Dixie Kong is really an option is because of the Donkey Kong popularity, as Jonno mentioned. And they'd basically just be continuing from that line.
Right. Yeah, and to speak to her abilities a little further, yes, the hair can lift up different things, and that's absolutely going to be a part of the moveset with her grabs. The helicopter spin, where she uses her hair as a helicopter, is an obvious up special. Otherwise, she'd probably just be blowing bubbles with bubble gum as her standard or some shit.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to get a little stray a little bit from the regular formula, you can always invoke the animal buddies in some Kong's moveset or another. So there's material there, but it's a little less. It's a little more loose. And for those reasons, I think looking at the character lineups here, Dixie is the weakest of the three. I would be fine with just saying nix her at this point. Peach, there's an argument for, because I do think like she's always a very popular character. She's beginning to be playable in Mario spin-offs on the 64, as well as Super Mario 2, Super Mario RPG, as you mentioned. And pretty much all of her moves from Melee are the moves that are available to her here in 64. So there's absolutely the same moveset potential, as you had mentioned, Lister. So the question for Peach becomes like, and Wario, is like, how many new Mario characters do we want here? Do we want one with Luigi, or two, or even three? I think 4 is overkill.
4 is definitely overkill.
Yeah.
Right.
Though, I mean, Dixie and Wario are Mario adjacent technically, so they'd be their own series, but they're still in that world of the same world as the Mushroom Kingdom. So it like semi counts. So lumping in Dixie and Peach and Wario and Luigi, I think there can be 3 potentially, depending on where the rest of this discussion goes. But 4, no. And Dixie's the weakest.
Dixie is the weakest.
Yeah. Like, at this point, I would motion, not that this is a legal proceeding, but I would motion to cut Dixie Kong, leave Peach and Wario both. Well, I think we can choose one of them to add for now, and then leave the other one on the table, depending on what other characters we choose, and if we feel like there is still room for a third new Mario character.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think cut Dixie for sure, but the 2 becomes very difficult because they would definitely want to promote Wario coming from the Wario Land angle, but they'd also want to promote Peach. It's like, oh, like girl power, big girls can have toys too with this Happy Meal.
Which yes, but also like it's so like stereotypical too.
It was the '90s. It was definitely
I
stereotypical.
know prior knowledge, all that stuff, but yeah.
Just imagine we get a new version of the N64 Super Smash Bros. Commercial with 4 people dressed up as these characters, and we get fucking a gigantic Pikachu again because Pikachu was one of them. We get a giant Fox McCloud. We get a giant Peach and a giant Ryota Hayami.
But they
And they all
Oh my
they go frolicking in the meadow together to the tune of the music, and then they just start beating the crap out of each other. It's like, what the fuck? Why does Peach have a frying pan?
No, they mixed up the order. So they did want a giant peach, but instead they got a literal giant peach from James and the Giant Peach instead, and just it's just a
Yes.
literal peach.
As Pikmin like to call it, a mock bottom.
What? No, that's not real.
Yes,
That
it is.
not real.
Play Pikmin 3.
Oh no.
Play Pikmin 3.
Oh
It is
dear. Don't let the gays
Peach-
know.
Apples are also called insect condos.
Oh god.
Peach
Okay.
also summons giant mock bottoms in her final smash.
That's true. That's
Okay.
true.
Wow.
We need to change that final smash in the next smash, though. Come on, give
Yes.
Peach something new.
And Daisy's
Okay.
being the same, but with flowers is like super pathetic.
Yeah. All right. So
Luckily, Wonder will do wonders for her. Sidebar.
I think we leave them. I think we do leave them both for now, especially because as we eliminate others, it'll determine if there's one we want to fight more. If we do truly have to pick between them, because I think now we're trying
Fair
to
enough.
even excuse both of them.
I mean, I was arguing pick one of them right now, but if we want to hold off on that,
Honestly, I say so because if certain ones get eliminated, I'll find myself fighting more for one of them.
okay.
So yeah,
All right, then I think we need to talk about the Kirby characters.
we do.
It's Meta Knight or it's King Dedede.
So
Ooh.
here's the thing. There's great ones, and now here's how I'm gonna get torn is because going into it and looking at our list, okay, looking at the existing roster, we've got a couple true villains in Bowser and Ganon, but like so many other good heroes on there. I'm like, we need like a true villain on the list, and DDD was the very first. And I was thinking from a character in terms of like roster, because some people want to play as the bad guy kind of thing. Listening to some of the stuff here, and also comparing to the list, we got a lot of heavy people on the existing bracket already, and DDD would just be another one on there. Whereas Meta Knight would be a different kind of fighting style. So DDD leans more one way from me from a character type, and Meta Knight goes the other way for fighting style, where it's like, well, shoot.
I mean, both are popular characters. They would each fight in a very different way. King Dedede would be a heavy brawler, whereas our previous heavy characters, I would call Donkey Kong. He's probably a brawler. Bowser,
Ganon?
honestly, they're all Bowser and Ganon. Actually, they'd all be brawlers. I feel like, which I think is kind of typical for heavy characters in fighting games. Are typically going to be more of a brawler type. Where Dedede is a little bit different is the fact that he has a giant mallet. Ganon has a trident that he could use for his weapon, but DK is fists and Bowser is claws. Then there's Meta Knight, who is a much smaller character, can be a much lighter character. Maybe he'd be a tinge bit heavier than Kirby himself, but he'd also be a speedy as fuck boy.
Sorry. I just had this visual of Meta Knight just being like he's just only slightly heavier than Kirby. I just had this vision of Meta Knight being incredibly weighed down by his helmet and just dragging like, guys, I'll be there in a second.
I mean,
Hold on.
I mean, he's wearing a mask. He's
Dragging it.
wearing a pauldrons. He's got whatever the fuck you call greaves. Is greaves the word I'm looking for? He's got armored boots. He's got wings and a sword. So yeah, he's heavier than Kirby. Just probably not too much. But he's speedy boy. He's fast with the sword. Not too many other characters on the roster would be a super fast melee character. They're also both. You were talking about villains, but both characters fit the villain bill.
They do truly.
Dedede is more villain than Meta Knight is, but they have both been antagonistic to Kirby. They've also both been allies to Kirby in different games.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
more more
Go ahead.
recently,
You go, Jonno. Sorry.
Sorry. No,
No,
go
you,
ahead.
you go. Shoot.
Oh my God! One of you go.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. So here's my question, because as you just broke down the brawlers and they're different. Oh, hammer versus trident versus fist versus claws. Here's my question, because I know Meta Knight specifically by his sword. Do you think we have the same kind of enough differentiation? Because I'm looking at the list now with we could have both Marth and Takamaru, where it's like if it's and Link, all sword people. Like I don't know if that's like it wouldn't be the same fighting style still. I know, but it's also the X's are everywhere.
I mean, they were already everywhere.
What do you think about that?
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. Link is, your typical sword user, sword and shield, very, very standard. Takamaru is samurai, so very different fighting style. Ganon has a trident, but he's be more of a brute force kind of guy with it. Pit wouldn't be having swords at this point in the timeline. Pit would just be his bow and arrow because the sword didn't exist until Uprising. So, and then there's Marth, who's also very typical swordsman, just without the shield. So a little bit. Actually, no, he doesn't have the shield in Smash. I don't believe, Jonno.
No, nope.
Yeah, theoretically he could, because the Fire Emblem is a shield in Fire Emblem, but
Makes sense.
for Smash he does not. So there's literally there between him and Link, and also Link is a little bit sword plus gadgety, while Martha is pure sword. And then looking at the other ones who we have here currently in debate tonight, Seliph is also pure sword. I think he's capable of another weapon type. I just don't remember what it is offhand. And you could also take from his father and go give him a horse, which is something Jonno really wants to do with a Smash character. Have a horse.
Oh, is Jonno a horse girl? Is that what this is?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fair. His favorite movie was Spirit.
Yes. And if you're going to theoretically give Seliph his father's horse cavalry stuff, you could give him, Stigger's ability to use lances as well to differentiate him a bit as well. And then Meta Knight is shorter sword, shorter range, but fast. That's his big difference, is that everybody else is more of a standard speed, while Meta Knight is, I'm going to outpace you, motherfucker.
I appreciate that energy too. Ooh, because this is a tough one because they're both good. I think
they're definitely both good. Meta Knight, I feel, is he's in a class of his own, but despite being a sword fighter, because he's so speedy and because of his stature, and he can fly, so there's a lot there that is different. And like Marth can't turn into a tornado and move around like Meta Knight can. But so I think that's fine. And King Dedede too on that same other. There's other like big brawlers, but he has his mallet / hammer thing, the jet hammer, and he can suck in a different way than Kirby can. Toss enemies around.
Well, I mean, technically they do suck in the same way. It's just King Dedede doesn't get the same benefits from his sucking that Kirby gets when
You're
he
right.
sucks.
King Dedede doesn't swallow.
That's yes, correct.
You did not have
only
to say that, Jonno.
He keeps the fighters like in his mouth and then spits them out as a star.
Yep. Let's get into that.
So
you can't copy abilities.
With that being said, with how we're talking and all the points here, if gun to my head, if I had to pick between the two right now, I am actually going to say Meta Knight. I think he checks a lot of the boxes that I'd like in terms of different variety in gameplay and still having the kind of evil kind of side of it where people want to play as something like that. And I think DDD still has a lot of great potential to it. But I also have the feeling like by the next time the next iteration comes around, DDD is going to fit into that same kind of box of how Fox and Luigi did here. Like, it's going to be DD's time at some point. But it would be the same for when it's Meta Knight's time. So which one do we need more?
Yeah, I mean, not to talk too much about the future, but most likely, whichever one of them doesn't get into the N64 roster will most likely make it onto the GameCube roster, and if not that, the Wii roster. They will absolutely make it by that point. It's just we have to decide in the moment now, hey, what if in this hypothetical franchise, Smash gets canned after this game. I mean, for our
Mhm.
project's sake, it's not going to. But we have to think about it from the perspective of this is the game.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not quite decided yet because I do have one more argument in DD's favor. Considering the actual Smash 64 dev stores that Sakurai has shared, King Dedede was a character, not Meta Knight, who was deeply considered by Sakurai for Smash 64 and didn't make it due to cut development time, basically. So I was thinking, like, why would that be the case? Because they're arguably shoulder to shoulder. So what makes one number 2 and one number 3? In this instance, King Dedede over Meta Knight. And as it were, Sakurai at the time, when he was still with Hal and whatever, working on Kirby, Meta Knight was not in Dreamland 2, he was not in Dreamland 3, and he was not in 64. So there were 2 games out and 1 game on the way in the middle of the Dark Matter saga, where Meta Knight was still making repairs to the Halberd and was less of a prominent character at the time to DDD.
Oh. Well, it's a good point too. No,
I can
Stop making
speak
good points, all of
I
you.
can speak to some of that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Meta Knight is in Kirby's Superstar.
Yes.
So there is that. So it's not like he was completely gone. Superstar released on the Super Nintendo in '96, so he's still there for that. But why was King Dedede chosen over Meta Knight in Smash 64? I think it comes down to one of 2 reasons. One, Dedede might have been Sakurai's personal favorite of the 2. I don't know that. It's just a possibility. But I think the other reason is Smash 64 doesn't have a villain or like a big brawler type like the Heavy Boy. The only heavies you could call heavies in 64 are Samus.
Yeah, true.
Smash 64 doesn't have a Bowser. Bowser, I believe, was on another character that was considered for 64, but they made the cut. But in our revisionist history here, Bowser's already here. Donkey Kong. Oh, I guess Donkey Kong would have been another heavy brawler in Smash 64. But we've got Bowser and Donkey Kong and Ganon all already.
So these characters are both they both fit archetypes present already, but are different in their own ways as well. So it kind of comes down to preference, because I agree that one will make it now and one will make it later, and there may not be room for both here.
That's true.
So, where are we thinking, you guys?
Shoot.
It's truly neck and neck, and I don't think there's a wrong answer.
I hate that.
And there's just an answer that needs to be made.
I don't want to be the first to say anything either, which I said earlier. Because the problem is that I was like, here I am leaning towards Meta Knight, and then you made that really good point about DDD being more prevalent in general, where it's kind of like, yeah, I could see that too. Gosh darn it.
Okay, do you want me to go first?
I mean, I'm approaching this from what they would do in Smash, largely. And between them and every other character we have currently and are up for discussion, I think Meta Knight is the more unique option of them. Yes, he missed out on Kirby's Dream Land 2 and Kirby's Dream Land 3, but he was still in Kirby Superstar, which released in '96 in between those 2 games. And apparently, Dreamland 2, I don't know about Dreamland 3, but I looked up things on Dreamland 2 here. Dreamland 2 was made by different people that worked on Kirby's Adventure, which explains why Meta Knight was not in that game. Because strangely, they made a Kirby game on NES after Game Boy released. It's like, what? Okay. But Nintendo told Sakurai to do it. It's like, alright, whatever. Okay, enough groaning.
Nah. I'm gonna go back to what I said before Jonno's point. I think I am leaning more towards Meta Knight.
Okay, majority rules. Meta Knight's in.
All right.
Mm. I didn't know I had that kind of power.
You don't.
Don't shut up.
All right. Where do we want to go next? How many characters have we approved at this point? That's something
5.
to look at. We've got 5 now with Meta Knight.
Yeah, Luigi, Meta Knight, Fox, Pikachu, Mewtwo.
Okay, so half the roster is determined. At least the 6. Well, at least one of those is going to go to Peach or Wario. Possibly a second to the other 2. Who knows?
Right.
Possibly 1, 2, or 0 of the third parties. I think at this point, Jonno, should we look at Fire Emblem?
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So first of all, I want to ask you a question, Jonno. I'm surprised
Sure.
that you did not include a Fire Emblem choice here, because you are the Fire Emblem, the bigger Fire Emblem fan. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts first here. Not just not only why you didn't include a Fire Emblem character, but between these, what do you think between Seleth and Tiki?
Sure. I didn't choose a Fire Emblem character for my list because I felt like there were options that were more prevalent at the time. There was Genealogy and Thracia on the Super Famicom, I think in 94 and 96, so it's still rather relevant, and we can assume that Marth would have made the series popular as it is now in the West much sooner with the Super Nintendo, so those games would have come out in the West as well.
Just as a brief note, Thracia does not exist yet in the timeline.
It's not okay. So Genealogy is the most recent one. That is so interesting. That
because
because
Thracia came out September of '99, which is roughly, well, more than roughly. It's over a year after this deadline.
Yeah, multiple years into the 64's lifespan too. So that's just I just didn't think of that. That there was that much crossover between consoles in that time period, because it certainly isn't now. Yeah, so it's still a relevant series at the time, and would keep going. It wasn't an oversight. I just felt like the characters that I had on my list were more like 64 era-ish, except for Game & Watch. Not to say that Fire Emblem's a bad choice. There's still a path to where we include one of these characters. Not both. It's not that time, I feel. Let's see. So we're at 5. How many are we passing through again? Sorry, 10?
10.
10. Okay. So yeah, I can see where we may include one, because one there, and then at least one additional Mario, one out of the retro / like Ryota Falcon bunch at least. Yeah, there's potentially room here. Seleth at the time is the most recent lord of Thracia, has not come out yet, since Leaf is the most prominent lord of Thracia. Seleth is a NPC in a few chapters in that game. Still important in where he does appear, but not playable. He is a sword user. Kind of a cross between Sigurd and Marth, not quite as elegant as Marth, and not as quite as I don't know, not quite as horse driven as Sigurd, I suppose. Sigurd also is capable of wielding lances and swords, whereas Seleth only wields a sword.
Actually, I just checked. Seleth does gain the ability to use lances when he promotes the Night Lord.
Oh, is that in 3 in Genealogy?
Which is also when he gets his horse mount.
Perfect. I had forgotten that. So so I would say, I mean, the thing they're using is still, I think his primary weapon is a legendary sword, but for Smash, I think you can make him a weapon swap character or just give him a lance. Screw it. which has been the long-standing argument with Smash fans for Sigurd. So are you making a mix of the two weapons? So there's definitely a lot to work with there. Tiki is one of my like overall favorite choices for Fire Emblem. Like even to this day, she's such an evergreen character in Fire Emblem. One of the most popular characters, I think, to date, and like Marth is very emblematic of the series as a whole. Being one of the first Manichettes, however you Monaketes, however you pronounce it, and just innately having that ability to transform into a dragon for special moves or whatever, or using a dragon stone in the same sense, or growing wings on her humanoid body. All that works, and I mean, we already cut Charizard, so more power to her.
It's true.
I had a backup. No,
It's
no.
true.
I mean,
I won't lie. I thought about it when Charizard was on the table, but I didn't want to like make that case that there's another dragon on the board. When then who knows? We may not include Tiki.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the big thing because I was like looking at them and trying. Okay, you know what? I want to include someone from Fire Emblem is what I was thinking for it, and a lot of the arguments that were made were not ones that I've had earlier. Which I mean, the arguments made now I didn't like have that knowledge prior, because me coming into it, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm in Super Smash Bros. And play all these games with all my knowledge. I have two blue-haired swordsmen here in front of me, and it would have been very overgeneralized. And I'm hearing more now about like, okay, there is a lot more difference there, and there's a lot more nuance to it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing Tiki and thinking this is so different than everything else we already have on the roster from a playstyle standpoint. It was a big thing. It was with the big push of like, yeah, she's the one I wanted to do for Fire Emblem.
And even though Fire Emblem is approached like a Final Fantasy, we're still at the point where Marth's games, Mystery of the Emblem and Shadow Dragon, are still fairly recent and would still be and they're so massively popular in Japan to this day. I feel like the same would apply to America, where they're like, oh, this is kind of the first game in that we were exposed to, so we have a soft spot in our hearts for it. It's this big deal. Tiki would therefore have a lot of prevalence, besides Marth, ergo she would probably be the most iconic character overall that Fire Emblem has at this point. Seliph does have a lot going for him. I like the horse, I like the lances, and he's not brawny, but he's a little brawnier than Marth, right? Like he would fight a little bit more recklessly. So there's nuances to the playstyle, as Curb said. When I look at these two characters side by side, though, even though Seliph is the lord of his game, the primary character, and it's the most recent game announced thus far, my choice, for reasons I had already mentioned, between the two would be Tiki. And, not to bring like out of the era biases into it or whatever, but she is a woman, and that is becoming a little jarring to me, with my current viewpoint anyway, that we have very few of them on the roster so far.
With previous rosters, and I know I didn't have any female characters on mine, not because I didn't want to, just these are the characters that came to me. But in previous roster, we didn't really have much opportunity for female characters besides Samus, because they, gaming as it was at the time, didn't give us a lot.
Yeah,
we have more now, so we can definitely add more now. Peach is on the table, Tiki is on the table, Dixie Kong is theoretically on the table.
Jill,
we kind of pushed her up. Yet Jill is still a possibility on the table as well. So we can absolutely add more now. Something I was thinking about earlier when we were before we even got to this point, I was thinking about how do you make Tiki work? Because Tiki in her human form doesn't fight. She only fights when she transforms into a divine dragon. But then I was thinking about things, and I'm looking at gallery artwork of Tiki, and I'm realizing, there is a precedent set way back from the old days. I don't know if it was the first game or not, or exactly which game first established this, But I know back in the old TCG, which has very old art, so I'm assuming, it's going to be from back fucking then. Precedent is set that Tiki can just manifest the wings. So we can absolutely have just Tiki manifesting wings for like a jump animation, or doing an extra midair jump, or as an up special, she gets a surgeon's flying up through the air a bit. She can pull out her dragon stone and fire out blasts of light, fire, lightning, whatever it looked like in the first game. I don't fucking know. And she can use that to attack with in different ways. I think Tiki could be made to work. Whereas Seliph, well, he was the one that I wrote down. I actually didn't even think about Tiki. Tiki, I didn't even think about her. Because I was just looking at these standard lords, which is what most people tend to look at when they're looking at Fire Emblem characters. I'm just like, alright, Seliph or Celica. Seliph is the more recent. I will go with Seliph. Because, it's kind of what Nintendo does with Fire Emblem and Smash. It's like, alright, who's the most recent lord? Alright, welcome to the game, kid. You play like Marth. Let's be honest.
Unfortunately.
Let's be honest, half of them play like Marth, and the most recent Fire Emblem lord, if he was added, would just play like
Leave it to the one that's never played a Fire Emblem game to throw a wrench into all of this.
No. I'm glad that you did, because I like the pick. I like the pick.
I think
honestly,
I think she would. Yeah.
I think there's a good argument for Tiki. Like, the only thing that was holding me back earlier was I wasn't sure how they would handle transforming into the dragon, but they don't have to. They can do personal transformation and just have her dragon attacks come out of the dragon stone itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can do Tiki.
You think so?
I think so too.
Yeah,
dang.
Said that otherwise.
Fair.
Zantok only speaks in truths.
Only assist, steals, and absolutes.
Well, he's the one that said only. I didn't say that.
It was implied.
No.
I don't know. I thought she was gonna get sniped early too. It was like, I'm probably weird for picking this.
I mean, you are.
No.
I am. That doesn't change anything. We validate you're weird in this instance.
Yes.
Damn it.
All right. So, do we want to officially add in Tiki and ditch Seliph?
I think so. I think there's room for a Fire Emblem character, but only one. They're both
Only
good
one.
picks, but
I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a play style, she's also going to add variety, and there's diversity in there too. So I think Tiki is a very strong choice.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the sprites in the overlay from the other one, is Tiki the very first one that isn't a playable character that we've added, or is Takamaru one too?
Tiki's playable.
Oh, she is. Oh,
yeah, Tiki's playable in the original Fire Emblem.
No. I mean, as a Super Smash Brothers character.
Well,
recognize...
Takamaru that we added in NES is not actually in Smash.
Gotcha.
There's Mega Man X, but Mega Man is. Ganon isn't, but Ganondorf is.
Oh, that's where I got confused. Okay.
Yeah, and then from what we've added in so far, just for this roster, Tiki is the only one not in Smash proper.
Gotcha. Okay. So with that done, I think we have another easy snipe, to take out. I think, because from what you mentioned, talking about this character is like it was almost like not going to happen, kind of, and that's Falcon. Like, do we think he's I'm so used to him being in the experience, so I think there was a lot of nostalgia from my part. But you were saying like, hey, he was almost kind of background, like he almost didn't even make it, kind of thing. Like, so I'm trying to be like, okay, what's his? Because I'm thinking from like the game side of thing. I may have never played Fire Emblem, but I know so much of the legacy about it still. I can't say the same for Falcon. What do you think?
So it's an interesting case because kind of the from what the requisite knowledge that we have now of how Smash works and where Captain Falcon fits into that framework, there was a game that Sakurai was developing prior to Smash that he pitched to Nintendo called Dragon King, where all of the characters had framework similar to Falcon's in Smash. Dragon King, one corporate decision to another, King Smash Brothers, and the preservation of that Dragon King fighter skeleton. Sakurai, looking at all the various characters that could fit that mold, he was like, "What about Captain Falcon? That would be like fucking weird. let's do Captain Falcon and make him like a total cheeseball hunk who shouts all of his moves like a superhero." And it became like the meme. Like Falcon at this point is arguably Mr. Smash Brothers and not Mr. F-Zero, because nowadays people are like, "What the hell's F-Zero?" Unfortunately so. F-Zero at the time, though, I mean, framework of the 64, it's still in its prime. It's just I kind of view like Ryota and Falcon in a similar vein here. I think you can have one. You could potentially have two, but it would be weird. I think the sweet spot is one of these characters. And so if this were, our worlds, Falcon is such an obvious get. Like, yes, he's in, but without the framework of Dragon King, and it just becomes another like, oh, this is a racing character, so they're on equal footing here. And eliminating biases of our circumstance and how we know Smash to be in our world, it becomes an interesting discussion. Definitely. What are you thinking at this point, Zantok?
It's complicated. F-Zero and Captain Falcon in this new timeline we have crafted is a very complicated subject. Right now there are technically 4 F-Zero games that have released. The original on SNES, I believe that. Yeah, the original on SNES. F-Zero X on the N64 is out. Wait, no, is it? No, it's not. Yeah, F-Zero X isn't out yet. Because that released in July of 1998, and our limit is January. So F-Zero X isn't out yet, which I think makes Captain Falcon a much harder sell. Then there were 2. It's
BS games like
BS, F-Zero, Grand Prix, and Grand Prix 2. I don't really understand what these are supposed to be, but I don't quite get that. It seems like they're essentially like how Street Fighter 2 had like its Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Hyper, and whatever the fuck else. That's my general assumption. But Captain Falcon is more complicated because we don't have Dragon King at this point. Now we could manufacture some bullshit that maybe Sakurai in between Smash games wanted to make Dragon King. I don't know. And then it got canned, and he's like, "Well, I'll just Captain Falcon this shit." We could bullshit that. We could. But beyond that, I think it's definitely a harder sell for Captain Falcon right now. If F-Zero X was out, I would be more thinking, okay, this could work. But it's not. So I'm kind of, I don't know. It's a hard call, Captain Falcon, right now.
So I do want to say, because here I am saying maybe take him off the list, and we're comparing the racing game characters to, though. As much as I said Snipe Falcon, I'm still picking Falcon over Ryota. I get the appeal to it and like what his moveset would be, but I don't know if he lives in what the universe of Smash is at this point. Not to suddenly switch gears and take a shot at someone else, but it just throws me off seeing him on this list, honestly.
That's just because you don't know the character, but and I think you might be injecting your real world bias, loving Falcon for being a Smash character, into that statement.
I think you're right on it. It's just weird. It is interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, from that standpoint, if we're just like, oh yeah, Falcon is in and he has this moveset and he says, "Show me your moves" for some reason, and it's like, of course we all want him in. But it's the interesting thing is it's not our reality. So all of that is no longer a given. It is so strange. And yeah, so I think F-Zero is still a very prominent game in Nintendo's history at this point. It was a launch title on the Super Nintendo, so a lot of people played it and a lot of people enjoyed it. Wave Race at the time, my argument is that it's more current to where It's cited as one of the primary titles Nintendo was developing right out of the gate, to where they were like, okay, this is helping us create a 3D plane in video games for the first time. This is one of the games helping us transition from like a 2D pseudo 3D scope of view into reality. So I think they're kind of on equal footing from like where you would have to stretch with how to make them work. It's just weird seeing the two and comparing them, knowing that Captain Falcon is a big character now where we are.
Kind of like the Donkey Kong versus Donkey Kong Jr. debate that we had.
Sure, in a way, yeah.
So something else I'll bring up in returns to Ryota in Wave Race is Wave Race is also kind of in a weird category with its game release, because the first game was on Game Boy, not developed by Nintendo. They published it, but they didn't develop it, and it did not release in Japan.
Yeah.
Wave Race 64 was developed by Nintendo and released in Japan, and I'm just looking here on the official wiki page for it, and apparently it was referred to as F-Zero on water. So the game was made very much with F-Zero in mind, and at one point they considered having high-speed boats that could transform, but then Miyamoto was just like, no, do jet skis, because he apparently thought that if they were transforming, apparently it would make them not be differentiated enough from other titles on the console, which I don't quite understand that bit, but I don't know what other racing or transforming vehicles were on the N64. But it does also mean that it's kind of in a weird spot as well, just based off of that. With the first one wasn't actually in Japan, so Smash, well, not in Japan, but it wasn't done by Nintendo, or released in Japan, yeah. Which sometimes Smash gets weird about that, but hard to say.
Sure.
Where
the most prominent game was released in Japan first.
Well, yeah, because it was actually made by Nintendo proper.
So I think that again puts them on kind of even footing, because they both essentially have one game in the series at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would make the argument one's on the 64, and it's the 64 we're debating for the console. But besides that, who knows? On one hand, we're doing something wildly different, and on the other hand, we're potentially cutting our boy. So there's like one or two, or maybe even, there's one or the other, or maybe none.
I mean, just because, like we mentioned before with the Kirby characters, just because one doesn't make it here, or both don't make it here even, doesn't mean they can't make it in a later title. But if we were to be choosing one of them over the other, I think my lean... Well, here's... I'm of two minds. Wow. I don't know. It's Captain Falcon is more standard. I think Ryota would be more experimental with using the jet ski and figuring out how they're gonna incorporate that. I think they can. I think they can do it. I'm not gonna argue that they can't. It's just gonna be more of a question mark of doing it. What I'm coming back to is Dragon King, and whether or not it's true that Captain Falcon does pull from that or not. We do know that he does pull some from Samus. I actually said that wrong earlier. I was looking at Captain Falcon just a bit ago, and I was like, oh no, he does directly pull some animation from Samus. Whether or not he pulls anything from Dragon King is true or not, it's hard to say. But there is a reason why Sakurai chose to put him in, even whether Dragon King is true or not, over other characters that could have feasibly done that. Ryota, I think you could argue, could have also been that same body build in a N64 like graphic setting, and he wasn't picked then. Maybe was that because Sakurai wouldn't have to be on a jet ski and thought if he wasn't, that would be weird? I don't know. But I think they both could have in theory, fit that same build. And the fact that one was chosen in reality and one was not, well, that's where my thoughts currently are. And neither of them were on my list, so hey.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you include Falcon on your list?
A lot because of the Dragon King question. Honestly, I was just like, do I include Falcon now? Does it make sense to include Falcon now in this new timeline? Should Falcon wait until the GameCube era? Because his only console game is F-Zero on the SNES, and we haven't had X yet or GX. But that's future knowledge.
Yeah, and there's still that argument now, since X and GX are such lauded titles comparatively, and the development timeline would be somewhat different for Smash 64, where X could have been taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And
what did I say? When did I say X released? X released, months after this, so they would have known it was in development if they wanted to use that as an argument. It released in July. Our deadline is January. If they wanted to promote F-Zero, they easily could.
Also true.
Oh, several key Wave Race 64 programmers, including the lead programmer, made up the in-house development team for F-Zero X.
Yeah, there was like a right side team of racing dudes. Yeah. At Nintendo EAD.
Yeah.
There was a time that Nintendo cared about these games, even when Mario Kart existed. Who knew?
They're fools for thinking there's no room for F-Zero. There absolutely is, you stupid idiots.
There's room for F-Zero, there's room for Wave Race, there's room for Excite Bike and Truck and shit. They're all different.
I'll see you on the Wave Race. I'm less convinced that there's room for Excite.
And 1080. Snowboarding, yep.
Okay, well, that's snowboarding, so that's completely different. But
Excite Bike, though.
Yeah, Excite I'm less convinced on, but that's not what we're here to discuss.
No, not today.
But if we were to choose between these two, my lean is Falcon. There's a reason why he was chosen, Dragon King or otherwise. Yes, F-Zero it's been longer since the original F-Zero, but X is also coming soon. I think even at this point in the time, they would see Smash as a vehicle to promote characters in games that they want to give more attention to.
So now the question is Captain Falcon fast tracked? Is there room for that now, or do we discuss the characters first? I also think it's interesting that Ryota gave this much of an argument to where they are staunchly, roughly 50-50.
Yeah.
On the discussion. I mean, who knew? And also, I mean, I maintain my stance, and so it's interesting because I think we'll hit some of these fundamental disagreements later on too. So it's going to be very interesting when we get into the GameCube era and further, where we're dealing with more characters. It's going to be like, oh
God.
Yeah, I'm not saying let's fast track Falcon yet. I'm not, but I am saying let's table these two for now. I think, because let's see, we have how many picked out right now? We have 1, 2, 3. We have 6 picked out right now. Here's where I think we should pivot. I think we should pivot to Balloon Fighter and Mr. Game & Watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to be one of the two of them. And that will give us our... Assuming we even want one of them, which I think we want one of them. That'll be our slot number 7. And then maybe that's the point we look at picking one of the third parties. Get our 8. And then we can kind of decide, like, we can look back at Peach and Wario at that point. And then
I think
from
that's
there,
fair.
Things might start sliding into place.
I'm good with that.
Maybe so, yeah.
Okay. So, Balloon Fighter versus Mr. Game & Watch.
Buddy.
I'm gonna lead out with my anti Game & Watch argument because this is why I did not include it in my list, even though I considered him. I left him off for a very specific reason. Jonno, how did the characters in Smash 64 look?
Polygonal.
Very polygonal. Can you imagine Mr. Game & Watch with that polygonal design?
Huh.
Because I can't.
Ooh.
You think they wouldn't be able to pull off the 2D look in 64?
I'm not saying they can't pull the 2D look. Well, they can definitely pull off like the whole, flipping back and forth part, but he's going to look weird. I feel like in 64 graphics, I think he would be polygonal and it would just not look right.
I guess. I think you can, like, Paper Mario is a different story since Paper Mario is a sprite, and this is not a sprite-based game, so I can understand that.
Paper Mario is a good argument. Paper Mario does not exist at this point in the timeline.
No, although it does prove that these movements are possible.
It does.
But the question is, would they go out of their way to make a sprite-based character in a game with 3D models at this point? I don't know. That's a good point. The argument for Game & Watch, like, perennially just always is, he is retro gaming for Nintendo. Like, he precedes the NES. He's arcade era, like, take it on the go, first handheld console, essentially, with at least the first one that's not, solitaire on a black LED. So, there's always that going for him. The profile is very high. He's the Mario of an era, essentially. Balloon Fighter is also a beloved NES character. I mean, it's a launch or near launch title for the NES, and you can't go wrong with that either. And I think, developmentally, having a balloon system where you're like, oh, he popped a balloon, now you have to blow another one, and the more you have, the higher he can fly. I think that's totally feasible. I think, they have a couple smashes in the bag at this point that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
but
I want
think
to include, like, on a one system, I want Game & Watch in. I
Yeah.
just have a hard time picturing him in the N64 Smash style.
Even imagining him as he looks in Melee versus 64 characters is kind of weird. Like, it's a funny weird, but yeah, I understand. I understand. I'm not going to say it's not weird. What does Curbwalker think?
Yeah.
I
Like,
want none of these fools.
I've never played either of the games, so I don't feel like I have a good enough opinion on them. I just know more about Mr. Game & Watch. He seems to be more someone like iconic that makes sense to put in the roster. It is kind of like weird because it's like, okay, from a gaming like programming perspective of how it would look and if it would make sense to be able to have him in this game and stuff, maybe Balloon Man makes more sense. But then it's like, I don't know if like then it's that kind of thing. Okay, it's feasible of it, but like I'd rather have like Peach and Wario instead of Peach or Wario and Balloon Man. Like it's an interesting one. There's so many different angles of this. We hadn't even talked about the polygons yet, and we picked half our cast.
I get where Lester's coming from, saying that we want a retro character, but at the same time, how retro is retro at this point? For we're in the 90s now, so everything here is only 20 years old tops. So it's just a matter of we have 4 slots left, so there's room for one if we want them, or there's room for Wario and Peach, and oh my gosh, yeah, it is partially overwhelming, actually.
It is a little bit. It's very much like, hey, we'll come back to this pair. Hey, we'll come back to this pair. Now we have another third one on top of that now.
These are fair thoughts. If we're going to do that, then let's commit to this right here, right now.
Okay.
We've put down thoughts on Peach and Wario, Ryota
Mm-hmm.
and Captain Falcon, Balloon Fighter, Mr. Game & Watch, and for various reasons, one or two or none of any of those could potentially make it. I think I think we're definitely going to have at least one of Peach or Wario. We're definitely doing that, I believe. But the
Mm-hmm.
other four, or the other four in contention, are bigger question marks of
Mm-hmm.
including one, two, or none. Probably not two of any of those two
Mm-hmm.
categories. So let's commit to this right here. Let's pivot again to third parties, and we are going to agree that one of them is going to make it in this discussion, and they are not going to be tabled as a foursome. One of them is
Okay.
for sure making it. Let's do that, and then we will circle back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bomberman, Crash Bandicoot, Jill Valentine, Leon Kennedy.
Let's make this easy. I think we should eliminate one of the Resident Evil people now, because it's obviously only going to be one of them. And if let's get that discussion out of the way and see which one would be a stronger one to hold up for it.
Okay.
I think because there's good points in it. Jill's more of a classic. She was available in the original, and I think with the diversity side of it. But you brought up a really good point about Leon being his own, his true own protagonist, and the more recent ones to come out, something that they would have wanted to capitalize on more. And I do feel like their playstyles would be really similar.
Yeah,
they might have different quirks in it, but yeah.
They have some like differences in their guns, and I don't remember if the first game has a knife. It probably does. I just don't remember.
Yes.
But they both so they both do. They both have rocket launchers. They both have pistols, and they can both easily do something like throwing a zombie at somebody else, much like how Jill does in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But I think where it comes from for me is Resident Evil 2 is the new game. That's my big argument. RE2 is new. Leon's the current lead. They're currently the first game has Chris, Jill, Wesker, not quite. You don't know he's evil yet. I don't think. Maybe at the very end, Rebecca and some other guy whose name I can't recall. But then 2
Barry?
is Barry. Thank you. But then 2 is a story of Leon and Claire. They are the two. There's Chris is mentioned. Obviously, because Claire's his sister. I don't remember Jill's mentioned. I don't remember who Wesker is mentioned, but you have Mr. X, who's your big antagonist, and then the mayor is a dickhead.
I guess here's my question for it, because I would feel like going for a later game first, and then if we ever went back to another one, because that's the thing. These are third party. They're not going to have the same we're not going to have the same approach to them in future ones where, we'll keep adding people from the Mario world. We'll keep adding people from not people. We'll keep adding characters from the Pokemon world. That's not going. I don't think that's going to be the same with a third party. They're going to be more one-offs for look who we got kind of thing.
No, you're right, but Smash, even looking at Smash proper, typically speaking, the third party character that gets in is either the first, the most recent, or the most iconic. Challenge me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure every single third party in Smash fits that bill. Ken might not, but Ken's an Echo, and then Richter and Simon are kind of a weird thing because one of them is the original, one of them is the popular Japan choice. But I believe that's the case for all others. And at this point, there's only 2 Resident Evils, and they're seem to be doing, at this point in time, an anthology type of thing, where it's okay, here's our roster for the first game, here's our roster for the second game, so it's not like we can really say, it's we're not having the first one? It's well, no, because this is the new game, and we have Mega Man X and not the original Mega Man.
Then if we don't, it sounds like we may not have enough. It almost sounds like an argument for neither at that point if we're not really sure on if we need either at this point. Hmm.
I don't know that that's what I was saying.
It just kind of felt that way. Like we don't.
No, I was
'Cause-
just what I was saying was I was discounting the idea that you need to have the first protagonist. Like you really don't. Not
Mhm.
especially not this way. Now, if this was Smash Ultimate, then the debate would be between. I mean, it could be either the three of them, Chris, Jill, or Leon, because they're all like the series likes to mix it up. But at this point in the timeline, we got two games. And they
Right.
each have different rosters. It's like what Final Fantasy does, like what Fire Emblem does.
Hmm.
So here's my wrench, and I don't know how stuck it's going to get. It may be a non-starter argument, but on one hand, yes, at this point technically speaking, so the third game in the Smash Brothers series, in our world, introduced third-party characters. One of them was Snake from Metal Gear, very prominently a mature series.
Yep.
But we are in the 1990s developing this game. What was the climate like for M-rated games at the time in the 90s? What was Nintendo's approach? Yes, they had M-rated games on the console, but they never quite entered this world where, the person from the bloody M-rated game is rubbing, heads and toes with Mario. I wonder if that's something that would be taken into account in this very conservative, comparatively time.
That is a good point.
I think the other side of that is that looking at Snake don't use his guns. Bayonetta does. Joker does. But that's later in the timeline than when Snake was introduced. But they also don't have to give Jill or Leon a gun. They gave Snake explosives. So, the rocket launcher is fair game. The knife is fair game. Whatever the hell. Throwing a zombie is fair game.
It's yeah, that's all true. I was just speaking more towards the culture at the time, as a whole, I guess, like where they may. I think Snake could. I don't know. I don't know if it's a valid point or not. It would. I think we can all agree it would be seen as more controversial, at least here in the West back then. Not to say that neither of them could be chosen.
This is fresh on all the distress around Mortal Kombat, that's for sure.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That was.
I mean,
Mortal
I know
Kombat is not allowed in Japan, so Mortal Kombat's straight fucking out.
That's why I laughed when I saw it on one of the earlier, as options for one of the earlier time periods. Like, what the frick?
I mean, because it existed. That's why it's an option.
I would love to. Do you have any idea how many times I dressed as Sub-Zero for Halloween?
I don't, but it sounds like it is a more than zero time.
Yeah, it was 3.
I knew it.
I don't know, because I'm looking at them. If I was going to really fight for one of these, because I know we were kind of talking about the Resident Evil, and I'm going off of it. If I was going to fight for one of the third-party ones, I think it'd be Crash.
I'd fight for Bomberman.
Here's why.
Here's why I'm saying no on Crash. Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo and Sony were not friends.
That was Sony?
So Nintendo also wasn't friends with companies, but Nintendo was very much not friends with Sony because have you ever heard of the what was it called, Jonno? Was it the N64 DD or is that something else?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, originally before the N64, before the PlayStation, Nintendo and Sony were working on a disc.
It was the PlayStation actually.
It had a different name, I thought.
Nope, it was their PlayStation.
Well, anyways, the two of them were working on a disc-based system together. They were going to work together to make it, but Nintendo backed out. and they decided to work on the just make the N64 themselves instead, and stick the cartridges and not go to discs. Sony was just like, "Fuck you, we're gonna make our thing anyways," and that's how PlayStation came to rise.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them are very much not friends, which is why Crash was not on mine, because Crash is owned by Sony.
Okay. Like when you had kind of spelled out for some of them, you had called out like, look, Sega and Square aren't going to. Sony wasn't like listed in that one, so I was like, oh, maybe they're okay, kind of thing. But had I known, then Crash would likely not be on the list because I ruled out anyone that was not a good relationship.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought to mention it because it just didn't come to mind until we sat down for this one. I was like, oh, Sony.
Oh, Sony.
Sony, Sorry. So yeah, Activision is the developer of Crash, and they are the publisher of Crash now, and Spyro. But Sony owned the rights and published the first 3 Crash games on the PS1.
Oh, it's worse. I'm reading into the history of this. Apparently, Sony wanted to control licensing for the games. Nintendo didn't want that. They were trying to work around it, and their alternative was to control profits and licensing, and Sony didn't like that. So apparently Nintendo found out that Sony was planning to backstab them by obtaining most or all the profits and leave Nintendo with next to nothing. And
Whoa.
then the Nintendo president at the time was just like, yeah, no, fuck you. And they made a deal with Philips, which is how we got the CDI games.
Oh, God.
What?
Yeah. So, yeah, very much not friends.
Okay. I understand crossing Crash off the list.
They both made horrible decisions.
No.
Yeah. It was definitely... I mean, I'm going to say Sony was more in the wrong because...
The
language backstab is in there.
They were villains.
But they both... Neither one of them treated things
Oh, gosh.
in a friendly manner.
No.
Oof.
But
Okay.
of these third parties, like Bomberman, I think is the first one to include, anyways. Hudson has a much friendlier take with Nintendo. I'm not necessarily more than Capcom, but the fact that they've had Bomberman crossover with Wario, and whether or not Wario gets into this roster, who knows? But I think Bomberman is a strong choice.
Yeah, and not to pull up the full list at the moment because I think the argument's already there, but there are more than bombs in Bomberman games. Even earlier on, there's shot putts and drop kicks and blah 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 that help you maneuver the bombs in a way in the maze games. Before even 64 and Hero came out, which were platformers and would have given them a much more robust move set. So yeah, I think the potential's there. And again, Hudson Soft is friends with Nintendo to the point that Nintendo, at this time on their very closed border with who they allow to develop their titles, Hudson is developing the Mario Party games, which are huge at the time. So for those reasons, I would say Bomberman as well as an easy fast track.
And the first Mario Party game would have just oh wait, no, 1998. No, yes, they'd be working on it right now.
They would know it. Hudson said, "Oh, if you want us to work on this game, put Bomberman in Smash." But yeah,
I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Perhaps Bomberman can take the Dragon King moveset.
Bomber punch.
Oh, boy.
I know. The more I'm thinking it over and looking at them all, and considering a lot of the conversations in there, I do see and lean more for the argument of Bomberman being the third-party representation. I love me and my Jill, but it's very much like I think I lean with Jonno that I don't think like some of the real more gritty stuff would be in. I mean, even if they're not like using that in the game itself, it's still like from a universe that is that. I'm wondering if they would have made that leap in like the late 90s like that.
I mean,
I think.
Jill and Leon are still on the table. Like, they're not being tossed out.
Oh,
There's just like because we have room for up to 2 third parties. So having Bomberman does not exclude the other two. And I know you guys are unsure about the whole maturity of Resident Evil, but I don't see it as an issue.
But we are saying Bomberman's in. Is that what we can agree on?
I say Bomberman.
I say Bomberman.
I say Bomberman. Okay. So we did it. We put one of the third parties in so far and actually succeeded at putting in the 7th character.
Thank fuck.
I know. It's difficult, and I can only imagine it's going to get worse from here.
All right, Peach Wario, let's talk about that now.
With this discussion as well as future installments of this game. I like
Peach
both.
Wario
I think
now.
they're on equal footing. Wario might have the edge a little bit because he comes from his own game series that they're trying to push at the time. 2 is recently out or almost out. 3's on the way. They're rocking and rolling with Land. But Peach is also, again, the entire moveset for Melee is available for her right now. She's Nintendo's most popular female character. Always has been, probably always will be. And she could potentially have her spot too. So we're at 7. We have 3 slots left. I think there's room for both, but the question is, are we comfortable with that? Because if we put in both, we have 1 slot left. We have Leon, Jill, Ryota, Captain Falcon, Mr. Game & Watch, and Balloon Fighter all still to discuss. Are these 2 characters high profile enough? Yes. Of course, they're Mario characters. Are they, but is there space in our minds from this developmental standpoint? Are we including 3 Mario characters?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Mario is the biggest franchise, so you can, but are we?
Honestly, right now, with 7 out of 10 picked, I don't have that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we should add in one of them. But then after that, I think we need to compare whichever one remains. Like, I'll operate under the assumption we can only have 1. And then after that, compare them to the remaining characters. Like, okay, like, assuming we put in Wario, do we want Peach more than Captain Falcon / Ryota? Do we want Peach more than Balloon Fighter / Mr. Game & Watch? Do we want Peach more than Leon / Jill? Vice versa, if we pick out Peach. Do we want Wario more than those character pairs?
I mean, I'm gonna say it because like we've got Peach and Wario on one side, and the other 6 characters on the other side. I would pick Peach and Wario over anyone on the other side at this point right now. But I don't know if I want 3 Mario ones. That'd be like saying how we like could have more than 2 Pokemon on it too, and we're going to be able to add them later as well. So it's a tough sell, both ways.
I agree with that. Like, do I want them both? Yes. Do I think that they both have better? I can't think of the right word here, but do I think they're both better options than the others? Yes. But taking into franchise representation and trying not to overload, that's where the question comes in.
Okay. I'm gonna make my argument. No, never mind. I'm taking my argument back. Never mind. I had a thought process, and then it got easily debunked in my head. But the sentence started, so I had to reel it back in. God damn it! No, because I was gonna say like, well, we already have a Mario clone in Luigi. Isn't Wario essentially a clone? But Wario is so different than what the other 2 are. So it's like
Yeah, absolutely not. He would pull from his powers from Mario Land, so it would be a totally different thing. Yeah, I mean, and it's difficult too. Like looking at it from a developmental standpoint, we are game developers in the 1990s. What makes the most sense from the standpoint of building on that previous roster of 16 from the Super Nintendo game? Peach or Wario? what it comes down to ultimately, and it's a tough decision because both are
Well,
grade choices.
Before you said that, I was thinking one character. Then as soon as you said in the developers what makes sense at this point, my mind immediately jumped to the other character.
Oh no!
Originally, I was thinking Peach.
Mm-hmm.
But with you saying it's like what makes sense right now in the now, my mind went to Wario. He's the anti-Mario and the Wario Land games. Peach has stuff, yes, but Wario does have his own series of games. And I think that is a point in his favor.
I think we could use another villain in our roster.
Yeah, I agree. Wario is the hot choice right now.
I mean, yeah, that hurts me because so much of myself is at the inclusion, like making sure there's more representation on certain sides, which is why I hurt to remove Peach from my list. And it's like, yes, okay, she's feasible. We can have her back on here. Oh my gosh! And then it's still like,
It's a point of contention. She's not out of the equation yet. She's still a very strong player.
I know. It's rough.
And it's so hard because it's not a safe thing to say, but it's reality that at the time, inclusion was not something a lot of companies were thinking about, unfortunately, which is how every single character except for Samus was, a cis hetero dude in the Super Nintendo game.
Kirby, the most cis of hetero dudes.
Yeah, he is. Look at him.
Is Kirby trans? Let's discuss later. He transitions all the time. I don't even know. Fuck. I was stupid with that. Forgive me.
It's okay. First of all, what the fuck? Second of all, Kirby has been referred to as male from the beginning, and that's never changed.
Oh. Oops. Kirby's so non-binary to me. I don't know why. Shoot.
Birdo we could talk about.
Birdo.
Luigi is a gay icon in some circles, I hear, so.
What? I honestly didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
To bring the topic back and not go wildly off when we're nearing the 3-hour mark.
Oh, I know.
We are. We're close. We're gonna get this.
Yeah, so then let's get this. Wario Peach.
Okay. Wario.
I think Wario.
I'm outvoted.
I mean, we all want both.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's so close that I could go either way. I do think
Peach
the edge
isn't
is on
out yet. It's just Wario is in.
Right. I do think the edge is for Wario. I do.
Then you're not outvoted. You agree?
Yeah, I hate it. It was too close. It would have been a runoff election for me.
Fair. I mean, I think it's a runoff election for all three of us.
Yep.
But you gotta pick one. We gotta get things moving.
Yep.
We don't have the time to dally around anymore.
What? You guys didn't ask off tomorrow so we could talk about all tonight?
No. All right, we've got. I believe that we have 8 now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Okay, so 2 slots left. There's Peach. There's Balloon Fighter. There's Mr. Game & Watch. There's Ryota. There's Captain Falcon, and there's a Resident Evil character.
and
real, either one of them would work over the other. You could even do like a fucking Bowser Jr. situation where the other one with the skin. Theoretically, you could. I ain't saying we do that, but you could.
Right.
So, I think we need to pick a 9th before we address Peach again.
Okay.
The question is, are we going to add in a second, third party with a Resident Evil character? Or are we going to go with a weird racer or with a retro choice? My personal thought, and I know the reaction from somebody, what it's going to be, but my personal thought is Falcon or Balloon Fighter. I think Balloon Fighter brings a unique everything to the table. And Captain Falcon, it's complicated, but it's always going to be complicated with Captain Falcon anyways. He's a dude. Ryota is also just really a dude. They're both just dudes. But Captain Falcon, there's a reason he was out of the first time, Dragon King or otherwise, and I think that would still get brought up to debate in this timeline. Whether
I
it's
do
both
think
of them
Mr.
or not,
Gammon-
I don't know if it's both of them, but I definitely think it's one of these two for slot 9.
I do think Mr. Game & Watch is the easiest out of the four at this point, because he can be brought into Melee, and we know at that point, canonically, he's
Feasible.
fully workable in Melee, whereas your argument was technical. Otherwise, if there was not a technical argument, he would be the easiest to pick out of these four.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
But he's out now. For now, I think he's going to come back pretty soon. Yeah, it's difficult to say with the remaining 3 or 2, you may say. I think it's safe to say Ryota's out now. I am systematically outnumbered, even though I fundamentally disagree with your arguments. Considering you are stretching across dimensions and making like 20 assumptions to get to the Falcon argument. But hey, I mean, you have to get there somewhere. Some way, somehow.
Everything
I
is
felt
a
like
stretch
Ryota
of
was such a
dimensions.
stretch, though, too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Resident Evil. So does that mean we're all feeling like Resident Evil at this point is unnecessary?
I'm not saying that. I still think it could be considered. Like I think, I think it's gonna be like we're picking a number 9 right now, and the number 10 is gonna be a battle between Peach, Resident Evil, and whichever of these we don't choose right now.
Gotcha. I know it's going to be not Ryota Hayami, and I'm going to choose Ryota, so that way you two can hash it out and figure out which one you're going to really choose.
Of course. Good lord. Zantok, here's the thing. I don't have much of the balloon fighter knowledge, so I don't know enough about him to feel like I would get behind him. I get like the fun of it, where like, oh, it's something different kind of thing, and I don't know. I'm trying to like think it more through, kind of, because like I was going through that list, and I was like, people of like characters that looked like that design, I actually like kicked out. Like, this seems too like childish. I don't know. This whole thing's childish. It's video games. What am I talking about?
I mean, I see Captain Falcon as promotion for F-Zero X. I think that's a large part of it. And I see Balloon Fighter for a extremely unique character who may not be very strong in the air, but would be much more of an air character. They have great air control with their balloons. You know, they're kind of floating through the air. It's just kind of a thing they can do. Kind of like Jigglypuff in a way, honestly. Jigglypuff has great maneuverability through the air. Balloon Fighter could feel that's a similar idea. And as for his game is a very simple NES game. Tap button to rise in the air. Don't tap button to fall. Avoid the obstacles. Make it through to the next area of the stage. It doesn't have a lot to it, but not a lot of NES. Not every NES game did. The Ice Climbers fucking got in.
That's a good point. So I was gonna say, where it's like, it doesn't even sound like he's fighting. What would his moveset be? But if it's the same kind of argument would have been put on Ice Climbers, and we have Ice Climbers, it's like, well, that's not quite a sound argument against it then.
Although Zantok did put forth an argument for Captain Falcon when the discussion was Captain Falcon versus Ryota, so there is that to consider. To offer credence to Falcon, not necessarily over Balloon Fighter, but in general, he's the more relevant character at the time. Nintendo is very apt to use Smash as a vehicle to advertise forthcoming games, which F-Zero X is.
Yep.
Okay, here's an interesting question too, in terms of it, like, because I'm wondering about because I was focusing more on if it was the playstyle stuff and kind of the character of it. It's I feel like people would, if having to choose, and I'm looking at these who would I want to play as, and it would be Falcon. I don't this is also coming from someone that doesn't have much knowledge on either. I mean, my only Falcon experience is Super Smash. I don't have it. It's comparing them all to each other. It's kind of I think Falcon could picked a lot more in general. I mean, it is our calls for it. It's not like there's other people that are going to suddenly jump on this call and determine it for us. But that's just how I'm feeling on it. Do not invite anyone else.
No,
Jonno,
we're not going to.
Yeah, Jonno, that chuckle made it sound like you would have. So don't. I'm sure.
Jonno knows better.
Good.
Yeah, based on the one time we did do that. So are you guys basically at a standstill then?
No.
No.
Okay. What are we saying?
I'm fine with Falcon. I'll just think it's between these two, and I'm okay with it being Falcon.
I would pick Falcon.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
It's number
We
9.
have 9. So
It is a strange and almost unusual comfort to see him in.
I mean,
Right? It is.
we have Peach versus Balloon Fighter versus Ryota versus Resident Evil.
Hmm.
Jonno, I'm going to open the floor to you.
Okay. I think if it's a first-party character at this point, it's Peach. I think Ryota, I actually think still has a chance in the GameCube era. Balloon Fighter always has a chance because he's going to continually be a retro option, and at some point he may get chosen. But Peach is such a high-profile character compared to both of them. I also feel like if you have Captain Falcon in, it kind of makes Ryota a moot point at this point because they're both sporty characters.
I would not want to put both Falcon and Ryoma in the same newcomer list. In different games, sure. I don't have a problem with that. But Balloon Fighter, Peach, both of them could come in at any time. The only question I have with Peach, literally the only question is 3 Mario characters. Is that too much to add in this game?
We are going from adding 1 in the Super Nintendo to you had Yoshi and Diddy, so that's technically 3 if you mention.
I wouldn't count Diddy, but I would count Yoshi at that point. So we had just Mario in the first game, then Bowser and Yoshi, and now are we adding Luigi and Wario and Peach? Are we gonna have all 3 of them? I don't know.
Part of me
says yes, I want Peach, but part of me says I don't know. But
So this is our 10th and final character.
yeah, 10th and final character.
Okay. Peach, Balloon Fighter, and Resident Evil.
Yep.
I have my lean. Say it prematurely, but what do you guys think? Okay, fine. I'll say my lean. You go first. You said honestly. Sorry.
Well, we know Curb is saying Peach.
Yeah, I was saying Peach.
I am very much undecided.
Got it. Okay, so at this point, I feel like it comes down to a first party. It feels a little odd to me anyway with Resident Evil at this point. when you have the other two on the table. That's just my opinion. I don't know if Curb might agree or not. And Balloon Fighter versus Peach, on one hand, you have a very unique fighter. And on one hand, you have a Mario character who is one of the elite four of Mario games with Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Bowser. My argument at this point is I think it is weird to consider that Luigi, Bowser, Mario are in, Wario, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Yoshi are in, and Peach isn't. I think at this point, my vote would be Peach is in. She's the highest profile character. Probably the Nintendo choice. The most likely that they would choose as well, at least from what I can assume.
Okay. Starting where you started, you dismissed Resident Evil right away. I'm not going to argue against that because, like, I think any of these are good choices, and I am fine with not arguing further for the Resident Evil characters, either Jill or Leon. At this point in the timeline, we've established only one third-party character has gotten into each game so far. We could have added a second, but we don't have to. So, Jill, Leon, both are gone.
Okay.
Then, when it comes to Balloon Fighter against Peach, I will say I'm hesitant just to have that much Mario, but both of you do not seem concerned at all. You both think if you're concerned, you think that that having Peach in is worth more than the concern is. She outweighs the concern, and that's fair. I am good to go with Peach. I wanted to raise the question, but since you both need, much like how I wasn't concerned about Resident Evil being mature or guns and whatever, neither one of you are concerned about there being, let's say, Mario bloat. So if we're fine with that, then it's Peach over Balloon Fighter.
I honestly feel that, yeah. Because, like, I guess I'm trying to not to use other extensive knowledge. It's making me think of, like, when Melee happened and they added so much Mario people. So it's like, or is that a weird thought?
True.
No,
We
no,
got
it's
Bowser. We got 3 Mario people in Melee.
What am I mixing up then?
I don't know, because we got Bowser, Peach, and Dr. Mario.
Oh, wait. When did Daisy and Waluigi get thrown into the mix?
Well, Waluigi's not in Smash, and Daisy only just got added in Ultimate.
Interesting. Okay, I'm misconfusing something then. Never mind.
A few things.
Well, you've got Piranha Plant in Ultimate, though. Oh, boy.
Yeah, also, holy crap, we can have Mario and Dr. Mario. We can have different Marios.
I don't think Dr. Mario is ever going to make the cut. I'm just going to make that prediction.
No, I'm fair with that. I don't think he will either.
Dr. Mario only got in Melee because, hey, we can add in these clone characters that are very similar, or we can add in one more unique character. Let's fill out the roster with more characters. That's how Dr. Mario got in. But with that, after 3 hours, we've got our 10.
I like this 10.
It was difficult, but you can't really argue the choices either.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure all 3 of us have characters that we wish had made the cut. But that's the nature of the game. And they all have a second chance, and maybe a third and a fourth and a fifth as we go through the line in the later episodes. Oh, God.
Oh, boy. I really enjoyed the discussion. At the same time, I'm afraid of future episodes potentially being much longer. We'll see.
Oh, they will be. They will be. I'm scared of the final episode. I'm
only a guest in this one.
Yeah, good for you, bitch. But to recap who did make the cut, we have Luigi, Peach, Meta Knight, Tiki, Fox, Pikachu, Mewtwo, Wario, Captain Falcon, and Bomberman.
Okay.
Woo!
Cool.
We did it.
The bomb.
.com.
Bomb.com.
Dang it.
Yes.
No.
Jinx, you owe me a soda.
He's
Jesus
never gonna.
Christ.
Jonno, he's never gonna let us
Escaping.
be in the same room or call again. You do know this, right?
Probably so. That's okay. At least we put pants on Kirby while you're here. Oh gosh.
Sorry, that was completely involuntary. Oh boy.
I didn't even
cameras
need
were
some
on,
Wamba in this
You
episode.
could see just how much I want to dig a hole and throw myself into it.
You have a whole series to record still, though. You can't do that yet.
I could.
Yeah, we're supposed to record Super Cast Brothers for the next 40 years.
No.
Oh God.
No.
Oh.
No. I am not committing to 40 more seasons. I'm committing to season 5 and then we'll fucking see.
Oh my God.
Now then,
I think that's fair.
if we can get to the outro. Thank you.
I think so.
Mhm.
All right, so this is the 3rd episode of our Roster Redux project. We are done with it. We now have 26 characters in Smash, which I think is one more than what Melee has, if I remember correctly.
Ooh.
I don't know. But next time, we'll have a new guest. Kerr is being replaced by somebody else. And there are some new rules. Well, not really new rules. The rules are expanded. By that I mean we will be adding 13 more characters to the next one. We will now have a third-party limit of 8, so we could feasibly add
Oh my
5
God.
third-party characters. I don't
Wow.
think that'll
Yeah.
happen, but we theoretically could. And the date limit has increased not too far, honestly. Our limit for this episode was January 31st, 1998. The limit for the next for GameCube is going to be October 31st, 1999. Not that much of an increase, but Melee came out not long after Smash 64, which is the reasoning for it. We were debating increasing that by about a year, and I was looking at what characters that would add. But then I was also looking at what characters we still have available. It's like, you know what? It's fine to keep things as they are.
Yeah.
So we'll
Fine.
keep the original limit, and we'll be working on it from there.
Okay. Well, thank you, CurbwalkerZ, for joining us.
It was a pleasure. No, that was
It was an
it-
emotional roller coaster.
It was a good time. It was a very interesting discussion. We had some funny moments and some cursed moments, so it all worked out.
Absolutely. That's what friendship is.
Woohoo!
All right, with that,
There you go.
we'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
All right. See you.
Later.